veteran out there in a game 3. You're going to see 4 pitches for strikes, and
the first pitch of the ball game is outside to Jonathan Vastine.
Yeah, when he's at his best, you'll see just like that. He's not afraid to throw off-speed pitches and fastball counts, and does a great job of commanding both the changeup and the breaking ball.
Vastine, the leadoff hitter, takes a strike, 1-1, mostly known for his defense, but he's had a very nice offensive season, an OPS near 1,000 for Vanderbilt to top the lineup. He fouls that one away. It's 1-2. You get a look at the Vanderbilt lineup here today. Matthew Polk has had a very nice series in left field, but really it's the top of this order. Those top 4 hitters are the key for the Commodores.
Yeah, it's been an offense that's lacked a little juice, but it's Vastine, Diaz, who they've messed around in the order a little bit, just trying to get him hot. R.J. Austin and Alan Espinal have been fantastic along with Vastine, but certainly not the star power we're used to seeing from Vanderbilt.
Swing and a miss, a changeup. Moore had him out in front, and the leadoff man gone to the Vanderbilt first.
Yeah, there you go, right out of the gate with Mason Moore. We talked about his ability to command the off-speed. Here's a changeup just running away from Vastine. Tons of horizontal break on that changeup from Mason Moore, who's off to a quick start in this one.
That'll bring up Davis Diaz. He had a 2-run home run last night in the first inning, an opposite field shot. His 6th of the year. And that's maybe the biggest difference for Diaz this year. So the power numbers have been down a touch, but this guy's been a really solid performer for 3 seasons at Vanderbilt.
He has. You know, I think maybe some people surprised that he's never made a big jump, because just the way he moves and, you know, the pedigree coming into college, there was a lot of anticipation of Davis Diaz being a first or second round type of player. And as you said, really steady production, just has never had that one monster year.
He takes outside. It's 2-1. He's a pretty steady defender at third base. He does everything well. But you're right, he just hasn't had that monster season, but he's been such a presence in their lineup. Swing and a miss. It's 2-2. Moore working quickly. It's a little bit overcast and humid day here in Lexington. Last night it rained throughout the game. A little drizzle today, much nicer. And on the ground to third, there's Mitchell Daly, who has it. He'll throw to first. 2 up, 2 down in the Vanderbilt first. And a look at this beautiful ballpark. Seats 4,000. They've just added those bleachers in left center field within the last couple of weeks, in anticipation of Kentucky not just hosting a regional, but potentially being the #1 overall seed in the NCAA tournament. And here's R.J. Austin, second baseman today, takes outside a ball, 1-0. They've had to use him at first a fair amount. Chris Maldonado's missed almost the entire season because of a shoulder injury. Austin, incredibly versatile player, very, very fast.
Yeah, I'd say he'd win the sprint competition at first base in the SEC. I mean, this is not your traditional first baseman in any conference, much less this conference. But, man, he is a bunch of fun to watch play the game. Runs the bases with his hair on fire.
He swings and drives that one up the alley left center field. Waldschmidt over, can't get to it. He'll have to track it down near the warning track, and it's a 2-out double for R.J. Austin. So Vanderbilt with a man in scoring position. That's his 11th. The senior catcher swings and misses, 0-1. He has more plate appearances this season than he did in his first 3 years at Vanderbilt, and he really has helped to stabilize the catcher position.
No, there's no question about it. Leads his team in home runs and hitting in the cleanup spot with big-time defense behind the plate. You don't find that package often.
Came out of the game a little bit early last night with Vanderbilt down big, but the quick turnaround with the early start. And you can tell he's a guy that when Tim Corbin talks about, he talks about the leadership qualities, the work ethic, all of those things that matter, that are intangible behind the plate. Checks his swing out into the screen, and Austin will make third.
Yeah, that one got away from Moore. Burke's unable to stay in front of it. Vanderbilt gets a free 90 feet, and they're going to go meet about that one. That one was maybe a little miscommunication.
It's amazing in the digital pitch calling era that we still get cross-ups.
Yeah. You wonder exactly what Burks is set up in. Really, it's just a yanked fastball, trying to throw that arm side two-seamer, and he just rips it across his body. I don't think that was a mix-up on which pitch to throw, much more so than just a big misfire from Mason Moore. Either way, Devin Burks want to go out there and get on the same page.
2-1 the count, the pitch. Swing and a miss. It's 2-2.
There you go. Hey, how about a little meeting to tell you to, hey, hit my mitt next time? Always makes more sense. Perfectly executed sinker right there.
Moore gets the sign he wants in the 2-2. Called strike 3. Espinal caught looking. 2 strikeout.
And 2 times better swing and miss on his fastball.
First pitch to Ryan Waldschmidt is taken high, 1-0. Waldschmidt has had a monstrous series so far. 7 for 8 with 2 homers, 2 doubles, 3 stolen bases, a walk and a hit by pitch. Upstairs, 2-0. I think he's also helped a couple of people cross the street when they needed help.
Yeah.
He's basically done everything the last 2 days.
He cooked the post-game spread.
The pitcher from Thompson. Outside, it's 3-0.
Well, and when you're locked in, you just walk up to bat ahead in the count. Waldschmidt, how about this? First in the league in doubles, first in stolen bases. This is in conference games only. Second in batting average, hits, and runs.
Is that good? That seems good.
Yeah, I feel like that works out of the leadoff spot.
3-0 is a strike.
But there are so many hitters in this league that aren't going to get Player of the Year because of Charlie Condon. Ryan Waldschmidt is towards the top of that list. He has had an SEC Player of the Year kind of season.
The 3-1. Swing and a miss. Chased a fastball there, and the count is full. Waldschmidt has seen a big jump up in everything. This is his conference numbers this year. He was a transfer from Charleston Southern.
Mm-hmm.
The 3-2. He fouls it away.
Yeah, and you look at his overall numbers, and you go, man, that's a nice season. But when you look at what he's done in conference play, you see there the jump he made from last year to this year. The OPS jump has been huge. But he truly has been similar to Christian Moore at Tennessee, he's been even better on SEC weekends, which to me shows the type of competitor he is.
He takes high, ball 4. It's a leadoff walk for Waldschmidt in the Kentucky first. And that'll bring up the left-handed hitting Emilien Pitre from Quebec. Pitre, an excellent defender, has had a very good offensive season, showing power for the Wildcats in the number 2 spot. He and Waldschmidt went back-to-back to start the bottom of the first yesterday. After being down 2-0, Kentucky put up a 5 spot. They scored in all 6 innings they hit in yesterday.
Yeah, Petrie, another guy that's upped his home run production. Last year, just 1 home run, even though he drove in 51 runs. This year, 6. So we talked about kind of the difference between Kentucky last year and this year is the power. Petrie certainly personifies that.
The 1-0. There's a strike. It's 1-1. Waldschmidt, a threat to run, 23 stolen bases on the season in 30 attempts.
This is what you get with Kentucky. You got a left-handed hitter that can run. You got a leadoff hitter that loves to run on first base. There's a lot of things you have to cover as a defense. Now, they might stand up there and slug, Mike. Like, they like to hit the ball in the gaps and out of the ballpark. They lead the league in doubles, and they're, top 4 in the league in OPS. So it's an offense, again, that can slug, but they also lead the league in sack bunts and playing the inside game.
All the way. It's 2-2. Yeah, that's what Nick Mingione says, right? Their offense is bunts and bombs, right?
Bunts and bombs, yeah.
And listen, last year it was a team that butted and ran and hit the caps, and they were fun to watch, but you add the power on top of it. Mm-hmm. And that's what's taken Kentucky to another level this season.
Whole different deal from an opposing pitching staff standpoint because the threat of the home run really exists.
Outside, and the count is full to Pitre. Devin Burks on deck. No score last of the first. Waldschmidt a healthy lead at first. Not going. And the pitch is down low, ball 4, and the first 2 have reached.
Well, I don't. We've talked a lot this year in the Southeastern Conference about the difference between certain teams offensively, home and road. I don't think there's any more confusing stat this year in the league than Vanderbilt's pitching home and road. It's been bizarre. I mean, they're almost operating at a 10 ERA on the road in the league. And so much of it has been the inability to throw strikes. We saw that last night. Look at that, 999 on the road.
And walking 6 guys per 9. Last night they gave up 12 hits, but it was also 8 hit-by pitches and 7 walks for the Vanderbilt pitching staff. First pitch is a strike to Devin Burks. Burks, the emotional leader of this Kentucky team. We'll talk plenty about Burks throughout this game, and not just because his name is close to yours, because he might be the most important player in this Kentucky program. He bunts, first base side. It's a real good one. Thompson's only plays to first. A sacrifice puts 2 in scoring position with 1 out here in the first.
So, and that's right there what you see, the biggest difference between Kentucky and anybody else in the league. I say there is not another 3-hole hitter in the Southeastern Conference that is bunting with first and second and nobody out. And Devin Burks probably has the least impressive numbers of any 3-hole hitter in the Southeastern Conference. But because the first 2 guys in this lineup get on so often, Burks often is called on to do things like that, which is move the runners and allow Lopez a chance to do the damage and get the offense off to a quick start.
Lopez, the switch hitter, takes low, 1-0. Lopez on his 4th school. He started at UIC, University of Illinois Chicago, went to Santa Ana Junior College, and then on to Southern Cal before transferring this year to Kentucky. He's had an outstanding year. He has the top batting average on the club. And he tried to hold up, but he went around on appeal. Ben Levin, our first base umpire, saying it was a swing.
Yes, he did. That's a hitter anticipating a fastball right there. That breaking ball wasn't particularly close, but Lopez up in the count was sitting on a heater.
Swing and a miss. That one ran away from him. It's 1-2.
Yeah, that's what you get when you're a little in between, right? You're sitting on a 1-0 fastball, check swing, and a breaking ball in the dirt, and then there comes that heater right past you.
Kentucky trying to jump on the board here in the first. Upstairs, 2-2. And again, Kentucky trying to win their first ever SEC baseball championship outright. They shared the title in 2006. They've clinched at least a share of it this year. There's Nick Mingione, their head coach, coaching at third, and called strike 3. Painted on the inside corner by Thompson, 2 outs.
Oh, you talk about dialing it in when you need a pitch, right? Trying to get a punch out so that you don't give up any runs, and just dotting the corner with a heater right under the hands of Lopez. What a pitch by the reigning SEC co-pitcher of the week, J.D. Thompson, who was dynamite last Sunday shutting down the Tennessee offense.
2 outs for Mitchell Daly, the transfer from Texas. First pitch misses high to him, 1-0. He's been to 2 College World Series and a Super Regional in his 3 years at Texas. Playing third base, he filled in at shortstop a little bit while Grant Smith was dealing with a foot issue. And he squares to bunt with 2 outs and takes high. It's 2-0. He is tough. That's what the coaching staff at Kentucky says about Daly is this is a guy with just elite level toughness.
Leadership qualities. Dad was in the military. This is just a kid that makes them better in more ways than you can see on the box score.
It's a strike. It's 2-1. His dad was a 4-star general.
Yeah.
Like that's
not just your run-of-the-mill military.
It's not even a 3-star. He's a 4-star.
Not that anybody that serves our country is run-of-the-mill in any regard, but yeah, 4-star general is kind of a big deal.
Swing and a miss. 2-2.
Thompson just doing a fantastic job. Starts off with a little bit of shaky command, and man, has he dialed it in here since the runners got into second and third. How about Vandy going to signs? Interesting, right?
Yeah.
We noticed this yesterday. My sons and I were watching the game, and it's so funny. My son was like, Dad, they're using fingers.
Waldschmidt bluffs trying to steal home, and a called strike 3. Daly is done. And the inning is over. First 2 minutes bigger than usual for the SEC this year.
I mean, what do you say about the bubble?
Alan Barcy, the freshman, fouls the first pitch back. The bubble for the SEC this year only includes 6 teams.
Yep.
So
just your normal year.
Very typical. Barcy takes low.
Yeah, we're gonna see some previous norms broken, I believe, this year on Selection Monday, because there's no way 8 to 10 SEC teams aren't going to get in. It's the number 1 RPI strength of conference. They're going to get a heavy dose of SEC teams in. But as of today, there's only 6 rock-solid resumes.
But they're all host resumes.
Yeah.
I would follow into the bit.
So you have 6 elite resumes, 5 that are going to be in the top 8, I think, with Georgia playing their way in.
Yes, Georgia's been incredible. I mean, I think it depends on what happens today, right? They have to beat Florida today to be a top 8, I would think. They could fall outside that if they don't. But certainly they're a host. Nice play by Daly on the backhand. And the leadoff man gone. As the first pitch hit towards the middle, gloved it short, and not in time on the throw from Smith. And Matthew Polk, who's had a nice series with his 5th hit in 3 games.
You're not going to say this often, but Grant Smith here with a mental mistake. You got to go right now. See how he backs up and takes that one more hop? Matthew Polk just too fast. And I would call that a lack of understanding of who's running. I think 7 or 8 out of 10 hitters you probably throw out making that play with that read, but not Matthew Polk. And Grant Smith, who I think is one of the best infield, or one of the best shortstops in the SEC, just what I would call a mental mistake there, not attacking that ball.
J.D. Rogers from Carmel, Indiana, hitting. He's just 3 for 8 on the year, but getting the start here in right field as they move a couple players around. Brandon Holcomb, who started in right yesterday, got the start at first base. R.J. Austin moved to second. That one outside.
But back to the bubble talk,
Yeah.
I think that, you know, in years past, 13 is like, okay, 13 if your RPI is insane, right? Now this year, you got 6 teams that have 13 or less. But again, I think past precedent tells us that the SEC is always going to get 8 to 10 teams in because they deserve it. I mean, they certainly have, you could argue they have 12 of the best 60 teams in the country, right? So it's just going to be interesting to see, especially with where their win totals are, how many teams with 12 or 13 SEC wins get in this year.
And that's why today is so important for Vanderbilt. I mean, you would feel a lot better about your chances going to Hoover in the SEC tournament if you're at 13 and 17 than if you're there and you have to make noise. Because the way the tournament works is it's single elimination with the teams seated between 5th and 12th, and then you get into a double elimination. So you need to win, and Vanderbilt's likely going to be the 11th seed if things hold. Like, it's going to be very, very difficult to rack up the wins that you need without getting one today.
And the committee is going to use some different metrics this year. They've got the KPI they've already said they're going to use, but traditionally they lean heavy on the RPI as kind of a tiebreaker, especially I think when you're talking about with teams in the same conference. And so you start looking at the RPI pecking order of those teams.
That line foul.
And that seems to matter a lot more.
Range, you really like to be under 30 as an SEC team. There's a base hit the other way for Rogers. And Vanderbilt threatening here. They have 2 on and 1 out in the second.
Well, and you say within range. The range of previous bubbles,
right?
Correct? Like this year, the bubbles are so different. We see Rogers kind of cue ball one right over Mitchell Daly's head at third base. Vandy, again, with an opportunity here in the second. But that's why I say it's going to be fascinating on Selection Monday, because some of these precedents that we've seen throughout the years are going to have to be broken this year, I think.
First pitch to the slugging Braden Holcomb is a strike. The freshman with massive power. He was a guy that Vanderbilt wasn't even sure they were going to be able to get to campus because he was as part of a loaded 2023 draft class. And he checks and takes strike two.
Well, they need Holcomb to turn into one of those guys. They need him to turn into a Blade or Spencer Jones. He's certainly not going to do that here over the next month, but like that's the hope, is he could be the next feared slugger that Vanderbilt produces.
Snap throw behind the runner at first, and Nicholson over to get it just before it got past the runner. Holcomb was a two-way player in high school. We saw his arm strength last night on what seemed like a pretty routine sac fly, almost sure bet sac fly. He made it close on a ball in deep right field. He's playing first today. He was a shortstop in high school. It's 2-2.
Shortstop in high school. Yeah.
I mean,
why not?
I think I'm the only person here at the ballpark that wasn't a shortstop in high school.
Shortstop / tight end. Look at that body.
He actually had a chance to play tight end in college. He was recruited. He was an excellent football player. I mean,
how could he not be? Look at that
he's
body.
He's the poster child for
That's
this is what an SEC body looks like, right? Yeah.
But the learning curve of hitting in this league is real.
I mean, you see a lot of velocity and a lot of spin. 3-2 the count. Runner's not going, and Holcomb down on strikes, 2 outs. 3 strikeouts for Moore.
And as you said, a lot of spin. There you go right there. And this is one of those pitches that as he gets older, he's got to get the ball on the plate. And that pitch, is tantalizing as it looks, leaving the hand of Mason Moore. It finishes about 6 inches off the plate. And that's where you see hitters start to grow up through the years. It's not like he's going to get less spin. He's probably only going to get more spin, but he's got to get better at discerning the balls and strikes.
2 outs for Calvin Hewitt, the senior. Hits it through the left side off the glove of Smith and towards the left field line. Vanderbilt will take the lead on what will end up being a double for the senior Hewitt. It's 1-0 Commodores.
And I'm going to say something that will not show up in the box score, but Kentucky's defense is why this run scores. Hewitt gets a sinker that doesn't sink and rips it in the 6-hole. And if we go back to the start of this inning, Mike, it's a ball that Grant Smith did not charge aggressively enough that allowed Matthew Polk to reach with 1 out, and Polk ends up coming around to score.
First pitch strike. It's now 6 of 10 first pitch strikes for Moore. I think it's a great point because that's one of Kentucky's hallmarks is their infield defense, right? And just waiting back on a ball a little too much. I don't know. With the turf, do you misjudge the speed maybe, or just not not aware of the speed of the runner?
Yeah, I just think it's maybe a slight miscalculation on how fast Polk is, or maybe you're not taking it into consideration pre-pitch the way you should.
0-2 to Vastine. He takes low, 1-2. Vanderbilt could really use a base hit here. They need some breathing room. They've had very little of it dropping the first 2 games of this series. Again, trying to get to 13 SEC wins, which come a lot closer to assuring them of being in the tournament.
Well, this is the old right guy, right spot. If you're Vanderbilt right now, you love the fact that Vastine's up with 2 on and 2 out. And you know there's only going to be so many of these opportunities come across the board.
Swing and a foul to plate. Just did get a piece.
We talked about that RPI pecking order, too. A road win against the number 1 RPI team in the country would probably move Vanderbilt up at least 6 or 7 spots right back into a very comfortable situation.
1-2 called, strike 3 at the top of the zone. Vastine down on strikes, and the inning is over. Strength of schedule and how they've done against the RPI's top 50. 12 wins is certainly loud enough. It's been road woes for the Commodores that have really done them in. And you touched on the pitching woes as Nicholson hits this high in the air. Deep right field, back to the fence. It's out of here. Ryan Nicholson, a solo homer, and Kentucky has tied the game at 1. No one has more fun on the field than Kentucky does.
No, one of the best home run celebrations in all of college baseball. Ryan Nicholson, we talked about him right off the jump. One of the reasons this team is so much more dangerous and just stays back on a breaking ball and launches it into the right field bullpen. The transfer from Cincinnati, Louisville, Kentucky native, St. Xavier High School, by the way, with a launch piece to tie the score up here in the bottom of the second.
Shout out to Louisville High School. Do you know anybody who went to high school in Louisville who had success?
Well, it is the PGA Championship week this year, or this week in
that hasn't been
Louisville.
in the news at all.
No, just made a little news yesterday. I don't know if you caught that. But
Even I caught that.
That's right. Ryan Nicholson and I both share the distinction of going to St. Xavier High School, which is also the high school of Justin Thomas.
Oh.
Yeah, playing in the PGA this week. Playing well, too.
2-1 the count to Nolan McCarthy. You get a look at Nicholson there. A nice career at Cincinnati before ending up with the Cats. I want to get back to talking about Vanderbilt, though, and the importance of this, right? So 17 straight tournament appearances. Again, we think that you need 13 conference wins based on precedence in order to assure your bid. And that's you get a little bit more grace in the SEC than you do get in other conferences because of the quality of competition. But the metrics are very bubblish. 32nd on the RPI. You mentioned KPI earlier, which is new. That one bounced to the right side and past Holcomb. It's a single for McCarthy. He takes a big turn there and hangs on. Now, KPI was designed by a member of the athletic department at Michigan State. It was originally a basketball metric, but he adapted it for baseball. Kevin Pogga is his name. And one of the things in talking to him a couple weeks ago that stood out was, a lot of people like to rag on the RPI, right? Like, we all like to give the RPI a hard time. He said it's not that it's a bad metric, it's just a dated metric. And what his does is takes each game into account. There's basically like a score that you can achieve by winning a game, and based on the quality of the opponent, and it's preset, and it never changes once you win it. So it's similar to a ranking that the committee won't be using, but the Diamond Sports ranking, which came out this year. I believe they're ELO-based, which is, I'm not going to get too deep into this, otherwise I'm going to lose me.
They're what based?
ELO-based.
Okay.
It has nothing to do with the band ELO, I promise you.
Which I have no idea what that is either, but go ahead.
Seriously, you have no idea what ELO is?
No.
That's 2 minutes in the rock and roll penalty box for you. So it basically creates a score. So it's a little bit different in the way it ranks teams. Vanderbilt is 27th in that. What we don't know is how the committee is going to use those. And if it's on the team sheet, we know that they can consider it. We know it's something that Matt Hogue, the athletic director at Coastal Carolina, who's the chair of the committee, has mentioned that they're going to use, but we don't know the impact of KPI. And I think this goes back to what you were talking about, how precedents could be broken this year. Well, they have a new metric that they're considering, and the way they group teams and their victories has changed too, from RPI top 50 to Q1, Q2. That one gets away from Espinal, and racing to second and hanging on there is McCarthy. So there's a lot that we don't know. This could be ahead of the 16-team SEC, I guess more of a transition year with the committee. Is that fair to say?
I agree with that. Yes. I think, the fact that they're using KPI, the fact that the SEC is having a really strange year with how many bubble teams they have. Boy, there's that swing and miss fastball that J.D. Thompson just continues to hammer on the inside part of the plate against these Kentucky right-handed hitters. And if you're in the dugout right now for the Wildcats, you better get ready for a fastball. And that thing just above the belt and on the inner third is a beast to try to get your barrel to as McCoy goes down. But I just think there's a few factors at play, and one of them is going to be the fact that there is a new metric being used. But one thing we know about the committee in the past, Mike, so many of these things are splitting hairs. They're going to hang their hat on whatever they choose to hang their hat on of any number of different metrics, whether it be conference record or order of finish in your conference or non-conference strength of schedule. Yes, KPI, RPI, we have these other kind of computer ranking systems, but at the end of the day, there are enough different things that you could point to as reasons to include or exclude a team. That's what makes it so fun to talk about and hypothesize about in the days leading up to selection.
Grant Smith hitting, rolls one to the right side. You have to hustle to get there. Will Holcomb, and the big man gets to the bag in time for out number 2 as McCarthy goes to third. 1-1 bottom of the second.
Here we go. We see the Brock Bowers tight end athleticism of the big fella over there.
We all have dealt with committee chairs before, right? Intent to schedule in non-conference success were things that he felt like were important. He said the RPI is a large influence because they can use it as a sorting tool, and they are now going to use. He thinks they will use KPI as a resource. So that's where we're at with what the committee thinks. Good bunt, third base side.
There you go.
And nice decision by Diaz there to let it roll foul.
And J.D. Thompson. That's one of those that, there's 2 outs, there's runners running down the line. Like, there's a lot of different things that can speed you up and make you make a bad decision. See Diaz charging. Thompson was on the spot, but the presence of mind to realize that ball has some side spin on it. Great awareness there by both Vanderbilt players, and Waldschmidt showing you part of the bomb and bunt mentality of this Kentucky offense.
He walked his first trip. He's been on base in all but one plate appearance in this series, but he's behind 0-2. A pitch from Thompson. Foul back. Ooh, that's that high fastball. We're going to talk more about that later on. This is a really unique hitter.
Yes, and to me, fascinating Waldschmidt too. It's an uphill path. Like the bat is working low to high, but yet it's efficient enough. The barrel speed's good enough to where he has a knack for fighting off those pitches that you'd think he'd swing under at the top end of the zone.
Swing and a miss.
Like that.
Chase the high heater, and the inning is 12-13 win range, 11 for LSU. As Davis Diaz leads off and takes a ball inside, 1-0. I don't think we can understate the importance of this game for Vanderbilt from a tournament perspective, and I don't think we can understate the importance of this game for Kentucky from the perspective of they have never won the SEC outright in baseball, which is kind of incredible to think. That would have ripped foul. They've had some very good teams, especially over the last 20 years. Really, from the time that Nick Mingione came to Kentucky as an assistant under John Cohen. His first year there was 2006. Left with Cohen to go be an assistant at Mississippi State before coming back and taking the job in 2016 here. It's 8th season. They've been to 2 super regionals, but Kentucky has never been to Omaha. And we do know that the path there this year will likely have to come through Lexington.
Yeah, they're going to be at home until they get eliminated or go to Omaha. Nick Mingione just been breaking down barriers ever since he got here.
Swinging a drive by Davis down the left field line towards the corner, and it's gone. Davis Diaz with his second homer in as many games, and Vanderbilt has the lead again at 2-1.
Here he comes. We talked about the potential star power of a bat like Davis Diaz, and it has been mostly a struggle this year. But as you said, back-to-back games with a long ball, and that's a hanging breaking ball just sitting there begging to get launched. And Diaz with a rocket in the left field bullpen. See, he's on his horse because he's used to that ball at Vanderbilt hitting the middle of the green monster and left. But even though the fence is farther back here at Kentucky Proud Park, it's much lower wall. And so a rocket that would have been a double at Vandy ends up being a solo homer, and Vanderbilt gets back out on top. 7
homers on the year now for Diaz, and Austin ahead in the count 2-0. Austin a 2-out double in the first. The pitch. That one lined into right field, a base hit. And now speed aboard for Vanderbilt with nobody out. And here comes Alan Espinal.
Vanderbilt with some loud swings of the bat early in this ballgame. R.J. Austin with a couple of them. That dude can just really, really hit. Left center field double his first time up, a rocket to the backside, and now Dan Roselle wants to have a word because the stuff for more this innings just looked a little flat.
Decent.
So we're on TV until we let's just have a long one and make KP and Hart start on the internet. What do you think?
I think it's a great idea.
They actually do their best work on the internet. So you guys just slow down. We'll get to you guys when we're done here. I can hear Hart right now screaming at the TV.
He's firing off a text message as we speak. I mean, the future is digital. Tom Hart is the future.
That's
right?
it.
So,
That's it.
in fact, that could be his campaign slogan now, right? Tom Hart is the future. KP is the past.
Oh, wow.
Loves going is Austin. There's a strike. It's 0-1. And now I know I'll get a text message on that, too. Espinal's 10 home runs lead this Vanderbilt club. The Florida native waits and taps it foul at the plate. 0-2.
Espinal, we talked about the pitching road and home splits for Vanderbilt, but their offensive numbers are certainly better at home as well. And Espinal's kind of the captain of that club, has done most of his damage at Hawkins Field this year in Nashville. Boy, they'd love to see him get hot here this afternoon. He's had a really productive season. Just for whatever reason has not consistently gotten comfortable on the road.
He wasn't really slated to open this season as their everyday catcher. I mean, they did move him around or move him into the catcher slot early in the year. Jack Bolger played a little bit of outfield and has been playing mostly against left-handed pitching, but he had been their catcher for a good chunk of the season a year ago. But Espinal really has earned that job, and I think you mentioned it earlier, just great defense, really good leader, and it's just seen a huge uptick in his offensive numbers, and he rips it foul. Cal remains 1-2. And scoring runs has not been easy for Vanderbilt this year. I mean, the last couple of seasons, they've run into this where they just haven't had the power show up in game the way we expect.
Well, they're second to last in the SEC in home runs in conference games, ahead of only Missouri. And it's a power league. When you're not hitting the ball at the ballpark, it's tough to consistently produce runs.
Swinging a drive deep down the left field line, hooking in the corner and going foul.
Oof.
John Brammer, a third base umpire, didn't hesitate.
That breaking ball from Mason Moore not doing a whole lot right now. Another slider that Espinal caught out in front. Just a little too much left-hand turn on that one as it sneaks into the bullpen just left of the foul pole.
Austin's bluffed going a couple times from first. And a throw over, and R.J. Austin dives back.
Yeah, you got to pay attention, R.J. Austin. 24 out of 27 on the year and stolen bases.
And he has a base runner's lead, or a base stealer's lead. I guess every runner has a base runner's lead. He bluffs going again, swing and a miss. Espinal down on strikes. Strikeout number 5 for Moore, 1 out.
Well, there's a better breaking ball. This one had a little snap to it as it gets to home plate. There you go, a little left-hand turn as it approaches the outside corner. After getting away with a hanging breaking ball, Mason Moore saves his best there to put Espinal away.
There were 4 keys for Moore, right, in talking to the Kentucky staff this morning about what was important for him. As the first pitch to Barcy, runner goes, pitches a ball, throw by Burks on the money, and Austin is out twice. And overslid the bag and was tagged there just to make sure, so that's the second out.
Yeah, it was going to be interesting the first time through. I'm with you. I think he was out the first time, but easier for Damon Beal when you don't even have to worry about it as he slides through the base one of the interesting dynamics of people wearing oven mitts, Mike. I just, I'm like team anti-oven mitt, but this is a big part of the reason. You can't grab the base.
Bouncer to short. Smith has it and will throw out Barcy, and the inning is over. But Vanderbilt.
Those northern schools in the Southeastern Conference are fighting to be the Southeastern Conference champions. And, Tennessee's been there now about 4 years in a row, right there at the top. Kentucky, the last two.
Petrie in the air to center. Going back out it is Hewitt. He's got it for out number one. Look at the standings.
But are you with me on that? It's pretty wild.
Yeah,
right?
it is.
In the Southeastern. Who would have thought that Kentucky and Tennessee could year in and year out build programs to play with the blue bloods of this conference, but they have.
I mean, clearly Tennessee has been consistently one of the best teams in the country. Kentucky is just getting to that point after last season. Really, it started at the end of 22, and it started when this guy went into the lineup, Devin Burks.
Mm-hmm.
That seems to have been, at least in the minds of the Kentucky staff, the biggest change for the Wildcats was Burks going into the lineup and the energy, leadership, and presence that he brings.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's as impressive as anything. And this is, he told the coaching staff this week, he's like, hey, don't worry about me. This is my time of the year. So,
I love it.
And really, since the beginning of the Arkansas series, at the beginning of April, his slugging percentage up more than 100 points. He probably, I don't think there's another SEC contender that has their number 3 hitter hitting 250 with 3 homers.
No.
But he was the most outstanding player in the Lexington Regional last year, and, effusive in their praise from top to bottom at Kentucky for what Burks brings, not just on the field, but off it.
Yeah, I think the nature-nurture argument of self-belief is a fascinating one. But whichever side of the fence you fall on with that argument, Devin Burks has it in spades. Like, you talk about somebody that believes in his ability to produce at a high level, regardless of maybe statistically what you would think. This guy's it. He plays with his chest sticking out. There ain't no doubt about it.
He swings and serves that one into center. Hewitt over. 2 outs. It'll be up to Nick Lopez. Vanderbilt leads 2-1 in the bottom of the third.
And to be honest with you, J.D. Thompson has a little bit of that on the mound. Like, a 5'10" left-hander, maybe 6 foot tall, whatever the case might be. But, and the stuff is good, but not world-class from a radar gun standpoint. But he just stands out there on the mound, and you can tell there's a lot of conviction and belief in what he has. He reminds me a little bit of an Andrew Abbott from Virginia a couple years ago.
I actually just watched him pitch this week in a big league game, too. Abbott might be a little bit smaller and a little bit lower arm slot, but you're right. It's that fastball that guys don't seem to be able to barrel up. And in talking to Scott Brown today, one of the things that was really impressive about it is how the pitching coach for Vanderbilt talking about how it doesn't just have good carry, but it has good arm side movement, too, which, as a hitter.
Yeah, now you're dealing with both.
Right.
And he talked about the two-plane movement of J.D. Thompson's fastball. And one thing's for sure, when you see a guy with a whiff rate more than twice the league average on a fastball, there is something analytically special about it. And for J.D. Thompson's, it has vertical break, meaning it goes up, and horizontal break, meaning it runs arm side.
Yeah. Or appears to go up. It holds its line better.
Relative to the norm.
Right. But I think that's one of the things, as much as we focus on velocity overall, right? And Thompson's been, mostly 91 with his fastball today. And it's not that velocity doesn't matter. It does. But we have more tools to better evaluate what hitters in the box have always told us, right?
Yeah, the hitters will tell you, and the radar gun will lie. And there are fastballs that play up, and J.D. Thompson's is certainly one of those. Again, back to Andrew Abbott. I remember watching him for Virginia a couple years just shove it against Tennessee in the College World Series. And it's just, we used to call it, in my day, we called it a mystery fastball. And you couldn't figure it out. Like, why am I missing that? Now, TrackMan tells you why you're missing it, which can at least give you a little more pregame preparation on maybe what you want your swing plane or path to look and feel like going into the day, but still, it's a different heater.
3-2 to Lopez on the ground is short. Vastine has it, throws on the run, and a 1-2-3 third for Pats Nick Mingione. First of all, congratulations. That was awfully fun watching that last night.
Oh, thanks. And Berkey knows this league as well as anybody. I mean, you just don't take those for granted. And I, been fortunate enough to be a part of that 3 times. And everyone feels the exact same because it is just so hard. And there's some people that think because we have the greatest league in America that it's actually harder to win the league outright than it is maybe even make it to Omaha.
Yeah.
And, so thankful. Thank you.
Yeah, the grind of 10 straight weeks. It's hard to quantify. Let me ask you something. You guys had a really good year last year. Made it to a super regional, second time in school history. Hosted a home regional.
Added a first, and the leadoff man gone in the Vanderbilt fourth.
But you came into this year. I'm sure you guys kind of loved it because I know how you like to play with a chip on your shoulder. But unranked, whatever that means to you guys preseason. Did you guys know internally you had a chance to win this thing?
We had enough guys back, Berkey, that we thought we had a chance, right, to be good. I thought we were going to be a preseason top 25 team. You're the first person to bring that up. I was a little surprised that we weren't. And then all of a sudden, because if you look at our field, we do have a couple guys that are from the transfer portal in our lineup.
Yeah.
And you just don't know how those guys are going to be. So for me to say, I felt like we were going to win the league, I did not think that just because I know the difficulty of it. But we had pieces. We had Mason, we had Travis, we had Hagenow. We had a bunch of guys back that were like good, strong pieces. But until it's like I talk about our team a lot like a good recipe. I cannot cook. My wife's an amazing cook. Okay. You got to experience the hospitality of my wife. But just when you have a good recipe, you can't be all the same ingredients. You have to have a bunch of different pieces, and it's just like, wow, then all of a sudden there's this unbelievable melody of flavors, but you don't know how that's going to work with your team. You bring all these guys in, and you're trying to build something, you're trying to do all that, and you just don't know. And it was clear early in the fall that the guys that had come back were super hungry. They had been to a super, and they wanted to do more. And the guys that were here that came in, they watched us on TV. And you guys know this, the power of ESPN and the power of the SEC network. And just that's what all the eyes are glued on. And we eventually get beat by the national champion, but our guys just felt like there was more meat on the bone. And they did an unbelievable job welcoming those guys in. And the guys that, quite frankly, have been in our program, they got better. They got better. Grant Smith got better. Waldy got better. Pete got better. Devil's gotten better. James has gotten better. Nolan's gotten better. So these guys have all gotten better. So then as a result, here's what we have.
Yeah, we do appreciate you buttering us up, though. Saying that it's now Berkey's feeling really powerful. The 2-2.
Berkey's a confident dude. He does not need me, okay? Let's just call it what it is. He does not need Nick Mingione.
Let's change subjects.
I mean, this is the former SEC Player of the Year.
Hey, Nick, we're looking at the ballpark in the seats they put out in left center. Is there any other plans as we get into the postseason here to keep adding seats so your great fan base can come out and watch?
That's it right there. You're looking at it. And so I think that's going to get us to capacity, which a little over 7,000 people, which we've done a couple times this year, or maybe one time. But
that's awesome.
Berkey,
look at that.
You've come here a long time, being a Kentucky boy yourself. Just so thankful for this.
Yes.
Just a lot of people. A lot of people have gone time, effort, and energy. What about our athletic director, Mitch Barnard, that had the vision to build something like this? And just thankful that the fans are here.
2 outs, man at first for Calvin Hewitt. First pitch for Moore is a strike. We're talking to Nick Mingione, the head coach at Kentucky. You mentioned the recipe for success. I think one of the things that stands out from watching your team on TV all year is the personality. Have you been around a group that has more fun playing baseball?
The 2013 runner-up team at Mississippi State was unbelievable, and I give those guys a lot of credit. And keep in mind that we have 2 guys on our staff that we coached at Mississippi State. So Nick Amorati is our catcher, was the starting catcher of that 13 national runner-up team at Mississippi State, and Trevor Fitz is our director of player development, who was the starting pitcher in the national championship series. And that team had what they called a bench mob. And Trevor has been influential. Trevor Fitch has absolutely been influential in this, creating this environment in this dugout. So they've been great, and this team is very similar to that one in so many ways. And they celebrate each other's successes. And in a day and age where there's a lot of time and effort and energy placed on social media and them and things like that, the way they celebrate each other is truly remarkable. Even the way their teammates walk out songs, they're like doing hand bobs and all this stuff, and they're just into it, and they're into each other, and it's hard to find.
Some good base running by Holcomb there, going first to third. Vanderbilt threatening here, but now can they wrap like the bench bob could? Because that was the videos of the bench bob are legendary.
I don't know. I mean, a guy like Evan Mitchell was crucial in that. I mean, that guy, he did the freestyle 3, and Ross Mitchell. These two guys were incredible, but this team right here, I could rival anyone's energy. I do know that. And feedback from everybody on the staff. And I can tell you this, Dan Roselle is a winner everywhere he's ever been. Go back and look at his history. Go back and look what he did in college. Go back and look what he did as a player, as a coach. He has a winning pedigree, like most of the staff we assembled.
Coach, we appreciate the time.
Thanks, Nick.
Moore gets out of the jam. We've played 3.5, 2-1 Vanderbilt.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Mitch.
Charlie Condon, no disrespect to Jack Caglione, Christian Moore, or Ryan Waldschmidt, but Charlie Condon's going to be the SEC Player of the Year and truly having a historic season. Speaking of that, Hagen Smith shut down Texas A&M this weekend. Literally has not had a bad start. Is on a historic strikeouts per 9-inning stretch that's even better than Paul Skeens' of last year, which is just wild to think about.
That one crushed by Daly to deep right field, going back to the fence and off the wall. Past the leaping Rogers. It's a leadoff double for Mitchell Daly in the Kentucky fourth. Tying run is in scoring position.
Mitchell Daly, I thought he went oppo on us there for a second. This ball is smushed. J.D. Thompson, see, when he gets that fastball below the belt, you can accurately get the barrel there, and this ball is just a foot or two away. J.D. Rogers doing all he can to try to make that play as he goes flying into the right field wall. But it will go down as another double for this Kentucky offense that leads the league in doubles.
And here's Ryan Nicholson, who homered his first trip, and he takes a strike. It's 0-1.
This is a green light special for a left-handed pull hitter. A runner on second base with nobody out. Just get the head out. If you drive him in, great. At the very least, get him over with something to the pull side.
A long hold that time from Thompson. That one fouled away.
I didn't get to brag on Justin LeBron.
I was going to ask, because that was maybe the most, I don't want to say controversial, but the least chalk pick maybe that you made.
Well, how about playing shortstop all year long and hitting 340 with 11?
No. I mean, I think there would be some people that might put
Grahovic?
Gavin Grahovic in that, right?
To me, it was two reasons I went with, that hit him right on the head. Ay.
Is he okay? Looks like he's all right.
Oh,
yeah,
like
a little fist
champ.
bump.
Some dude points by my man in the front row. Tough as nails. But LeBron plays shortstop every day as a freshman. I know Grahovic's playing third, but also in a lineup that is much more in need of his production. Not to say A&M hasn't.
The 0-2, swing and a miss. Nicholson down on strikes. Espinal will have to throw to first to record the putout.
If you wear it off the noggin, you should get the ball back.
Hey.
Well done. Well done. But anyway, I went with LeBron. Would you go Grahovic?
I think I would go Grahovic because I think the flip side to that is that Texas A&M may have more offensive pieces, but the offense works because of Grahovic, too.
Okay. Yeah,
you know
he's hitting first.
But I thought it was an interesting choice because he's obviously been a really important piece for Alabama this year.
For a team that's needed, I mean, they started the year off with him hitting eighth, and he's been so spectacular. He's now hitting third.
Well, and if you think about everything that happened with Alabama last year, right? New coaching staff, so many guys, and so many of their key players from a year ago transferring out inside the conference, right? So, like, if you add that to the narrative on it, I think that makes sense. But then it becomes more of a team award than an individual award.
Yeah, that's fair. So anyway, LeBron, and then Minge being SEC Coach of the Year, I don't know how he couldn't be that guy. Certainly, Tony Vitello and Jim Schlossnagle, Dave Van Horn would. Heck, Wes Johnson, year one at Georgia, to do what they've done. There's some other really well-deserving candidates, but I think it has to be Minge.
Yeah, I think that's your other candidate, really, is Wes Johnson with the job that he's done, too. But this has been kind of a 2.5-year ascendancy for Kentucky to the top of the charts. Swing and a miss. It's 2-2 to McCarthy. Here, Kentucky is trailing 2-1. Again, a Kentucky win would give them the SEC regular season title outright. They've already clinched at least a share of it. But also give them the number 1 overall seed in the tournament next week in Hoover. Pickoff play, and diving back is Daly. Kentucky still looking for their first hit with men in scoring position today. They've had some opportunities. They had runners at second and third and one out in the first and couldn't cash it home. McCarthy singled to right his first trip and was stranded at second after a wild pitch. And he's run the count full. Boy, these Kentucky hitters just putting it bad on you, don't they?
Yeah, they just do. They drive you nuts. I'm sure if you're in the opposing dugout trying to navigate 1 through 9 and deal with the traffic and the base stealing threat.
Fouled away. I mean, it's not like Thompson has been all over the place, but he's already at 71 pitches with 1 out in the third.
Yeah, no, it's
just the fourth, excuse me.
Every hitter takes a little piece of the guy with them as they go. McCarthy certainly doing that here in this at-bat. Choked way up on the bat, just whatever. You know, Nick Mingione likes to say the offense is whatever it takes.
Called strike 3. Boy, that was a perfectly located fastball, 2 outs.
We continue to see that from J.D. Thompson. We've been saying it really since the first. Like when he needs a pitch, he's going glove side heater, or he's going to run that four-seamer up above the belly button. And that one was the dotted fastball on the down and inside edge of the plate. J.D. Thompson has made some really big pitches in this ball game.
Here's James McCoy, who struck out swinging his first trip, the switch hitter. Fouls it away. 0-1. This becomes a really important at-bat because Mason Moore is about to face the heart of the Vanderbilt order for a third time. And so for Kentucky, you do not want to waste this opportunity. The 0-1 from Thompson. Check swing low. It's 1-1. McCoy's average in the 220s right now. He has a little bit of pop. Daly gets the lead from second. There's the 1-1. That one down low. It's 2-1.
See Thompson kind of trying to fool around with a breaking ball. We've seen some change-ups in and out, but man, when push comes to shove, he's going fastball. If you're McCoy right here, you have got to be ready for the heater.
Swing and a miss. Boy, that one running away from him at 92. It's 2-2.
That's that two-plane heater right there. And when he goes arm side, it just explodes up and away from right-handed hitters. But then the flip side of that is he's got the ability to the glove side to bury it in there on the inner third.
The 2-2. Foul back. We just did get a piece of it. Thompson really keeping an eye on Daly at second. I would think that probably with 2 outs and 2 strikes, he's not going to run here, but
yeah, some of that pitcher every once in a while is playing a little cat and mouse with the hitter. You know, the pitch clock era we live in, you can get set early and end up holding and pausing.
And he comes inside and just missed. I thought it hit him.
How did it not hit him?
The way it ricocheted around.
Oh, just around his leg. Yeah.
Right past the front hip. With the count now full, Kentucky with a tying run in scoring position, last of the fourth. The payoff, fouled away. And it's another long at bat here.
Well, a little bit of that is Thompson's stuff, right? Because hitters are so consistently under the ball, he induces a bunch of foul balls naturally. But then a big piece of that is this Kentucky offense and the way they just choke and poke, especially with 2 strikes.
Foul back again. That was a pitch outside the zone. I think that's a good example of it, right? Like, that's a pitch that you're trying to get a swing and miss on if you're Thompson, and McCoy just keeps fighting.
Yeah, just shorten up the path, shorten up the stride, and do whatever you can to move the baseball. Kentucky really does a nice job of modeling that.
The 9th pitch of the at-bat is ball 4 inside. That's the 3rd walk issued by Thompson, but the first since the first inning. And perhaps most importantly for Kentucky, it clears the 9 spot in the order with Grant Smith coming up.
Yeah. Only Alabama has struck out fewer times as an offense in SEC games than Kentucky. It's just not a team that goes away lightly. What an at-bat right there by James McCoy, who, as you pointed out, not loud statistics, but boy, has he put together competitive ABs.
Smith fouls the first one out of play. It's 0-1. Smith missed last weekend. Gion had a couple of things to say to Jeff Head, our home plate umpire, so there may have been a couple of alternate reasons for it. Pitch outside, it's 1-1 to Smith.
Well, you also here have a scenario where you got first and second. So to me, this is where the 2-out stolen base becomes even more valuable. Can you steal 2 bags here and put 2 people into scoring position?
Runners get their lead. They're not going. And that one missed low. It's 2-1.
The other thing here is with 2 outs, like, where do you ever see a third baseman playing as far in as Davis Diaz is with 2 outs and a runner in scoring position? Only against Kentucky, because they know Grant Smith could bunt here, whereas really that's never in play against another team, hardly at all, but certainly not with 2 outs and a runner in scoring position.
The 2-1. Down low, 3-1, and Ryan Waldschmidt is lingering in the on-deck circle. The slugging leadoff hitter for Kentucky.
Yeah, if there was ever a dead red, you got a pitcher cornered scenario, it's right here. You're getting a heater.
3-1. Foul back, and the count is full, and now the runners will be on the move with 2 outs.
And that's why a guy like J.D. Thompson, we talked about Andrew Abbott a few years ago from Virginia that's now doing so well with the Reds. That's why these special heaters are sought after so much in the draft, because when you can throw fastball and fastball counts and get away with misses, that's a unique trait.
The pitch, swing and a miss. Smith down on strikes. Speaks to the incredible compassion of Tim Corbin, who is, you want to talk about people that walk the walk? Tim Corbin walks the walk.
Yeah, first of all, to the Sullivan family, I just can't imagine what they're going through, and was praying for them this week. Corbs was keeping me up to date on the situation, and with the passing of their son, our hearts go out to that family. Just an awful situation, and I think Corbs understands his place in that community, understands what Vanderbilt baseball means to a lot of people, and especially to that family. He felt like, can we help Declan maybe get his mind off just the tragic events around his brother? And I think it just shows, like you said, compassion, but also a feel for how things are bigger than a game at hand.
Davis Diaz grounds out. Asher Sullivan is still in the hospital in Nashville, and his dad provided an update today. It is a grave situation for the Sullivan family.
Excuse me. I thought, okay.
But we do send our thoughts and prayers to the Sullivan family and to everyone associated with them, and the Vanderbilt program has been an awful tragedy. R.J. Austin pops the first pitch up into foul ground, first base side, and out of play.
Yeah, forgive me on that. I got mixed messaging on that, so thank you for cleaning that up. But just beautiful to see Tim and Maggie coming alongside a family to offer whatever comfort and care they can to a family that's hurting.
I find conversations with Tim Corbin that I've had over the years have very rarely focused on baseball, and they've focused on people. And I think he's so unique in the way that he just cares deeply about everyone. There's an intensity to the way that he cares. That's my read on Tim Corbin from the conversation. And I think it shows up in, like something as simple as player bios, where he spends the time telling you exactly what makes that player special off the field, or why they have success on it.
Well, and the relationship with the family came through his camps, which another example of what you're talking about, how much he cares about the details of things. His youth camps are famous.
To the middle, there's Smith. He'll have to hurry this time with the speedy Austin, and not in time. RJ Austin is fired up, and I think we're going to get a review on this. Jeff Head, our home plate umpire, the crew chief, has already put his hands to his ears. All right, so we're going to get a review. Did not take Kentucky very long to ask for that one.
Yeah, and Mike, it feels like the second time now that Grant Smith's been a little casual with a ball up the middle with a guy that can fly, and I don't see where the ball's caught there, but I thought live that R.J. Austin was safe. Let's see here.
Oh, they got him. It looks like by half a step. Yep.
I'm going to say it stands.
After review, the call say stands.
My batting average is creeping up.
Here you go. See, sometimes it just takes a little bleeder to get you
get you hot.
That's the third time that Austin has been on base today, and so speed aboard for Vanderbilt. They lead by a run. Jackson Novy beginning to get loose in the Kentucky bullpen. Moore's pitch count is livable. It's just 66 pitches to this point. But he's given up 8 hits. He's fanned Espinal twice, once looking, once swinging. And he gets a potential double play ball to second. Smith has it on to first, 4-6-3 double play, and the inning is over. The order starting with Ryan Waldschmidt. Waldschmidt's made just 2 outs in this series, including his last at-bat with men on in the second, and he takes high 1-0. Waldschmidt, 11 home runs, 2 of them in this series so far, and he fouls it back. He's getting attacked with high fastballs here. It's 1-1. The lefty Thompson rocks and delivers. Called strike. That was a good pitch. It's 1-2. Thompson peers in, and the pitch. On the ground to second. Austin charges, throws to first, and the leadoff man gone in the Kentucky fifth. I'll bring up Emilian Petre. He's 0 for 1 with a walk. Kentucky started this game with 2 free passes. Devin Burks bunted them into scoring position, and they have not been able to score. The only run that they've tallied was on the Ryan Nicholson solo homer. First pitch to Petrie. There's a strike. 0-1. Was talking to some of the Kentucky staff, and Darren Hedrick, their great radio announcer, said that for the first time this year, his folks were able to come down from Quebec to watch him play. Came down for the Arkansas series. Had a big series against the Razorbacks. It's good to see. So he has been a very, very good player. The offense has ticked up this year. Excellent defender. One of those guys that really makes this offense go.
Yeah. And not exactly a trip around the block for mom and dad to get down here. So the fact that they were able to get down here, he played particularly well that weekend. I'm sure that's a special memory for that family.
And he drives that one to deep right field. Going back, Rogers, it's gone! Petrie ties the game. It's 2-2.
It's interesting. It feels like J.D. Thompson's going to more of the off-speed stuff. There's the curveball. And Petrie, watch him getting his back knee here. Get down below that breaking ball. Try to combat the downward break of that pitch by getting below it, getting the barrel just below the equator of the baseball. That's how you drive a breaking ball. And Petrie with a huge swing of the bat to even this one up yet again.
And here's Devin Burks, who takes a strike. 2-2 in the fifth. Burks 0 for 1 with a sacrifice. The catcher takes low. It's 1-1. Boy, as energetic as Burks is all around the field, he is very calm in the batter's box, isn't he? He swings and skies one deep and fouled on the right field line. It's 1-2.
When you say calm, you mean his ability to discern balls and strikes, or just his
his demeanor?
Yeah,
just his demeanor.
He still has the kind of the swag to him, but yeah, he slows that heartbeat down, no doubt about it. See, he's got a little post pitch swag to him. There's a little flair, but definitely just has that feeling of a guy you trust in big spots.
You know, it's okay to look at me and go, I think you're full of it.
No, I know. No, I know what you mean. I'm just like, I didn't know if you meant boring or
no. There's nothing about this guy that's boring.
Yeah,
absolutely not.
That's why I asked for the clarification.
No.
But you're right. I mean, it's a pretty no nonsense mechanical approach.
Devin Burks' mom is here, talking to some of the Kentucky staff. There she is. Denise Woodwell Burks. She is a frequent presence at Kentucky games. And the story was that his first year here, he was basically told by his mother, this is a special place. You're never allowed to transfer. Not that he ever really considered it. But it really felt like the way that this program has gone has been in part because they trusted Devin Burks. What a catch by Polk. He's had a huge series and a terrific defensive play. He had to go a long way to make that diving catch. 2 outs.
Yeah, it was a big swing, but the ball got in on Burks. And I think Polk, who was playing deep, he took a little bit of a drop step, and then he's got to lean on that big-time speed to make up for what was a poor read to start, and boy, did he make up for it. Full extension, lay out, and take it off the turf. Nice play there by Matthew Polk.
2 outs for Nick Lopez in this tie game. Lopez, the aspiring podcast star. Swing and a miss. It's 1-1. He has a podcast called The Leisure House. Now, it seems to have been on hiatus during the regular season, but he even has swag for it. Like, you can purchase Leisure House t-shirts.
Okay.
Out in front of changeup, it's 1-2.
Did you get one?
I was looking at them.
Okay.
I didn't buy one.
Perusing.
I try to invest wisely in my t-shirts. Popped up, foul ground. Holcomb will run out of room. I do think that being an aspiring podcast host, though, that consistency of putting out the product is what's really important, right? So, I mean, I get that he's got a baseball season and he's a little busy right now, but
why don't you go coach him up?
Give the people what they want. The 1-2. Wrap foul past third.
Oh, Minge just wore it. Look at him. What?
He's firing up the dugout. Did you see that?
What did I just see? My man didn't flinch. What in the world?
And then looked at Lopez as if to say, is that all you got?
Dude, I'm just telling you, this guy right here, he's worth the price of admission. He just took a dose from the third base coaching box. I've never seen it before.
He is so comfortable in his own skin. As Lopez hits that one in the air to center, Hewitt on the run won't get there. It's a 2-out single.
So when your skipper tells you to not get out of the way of a thrown pitch because we need you to take a hit by pitch to get on base, like you talk about modeling the way. Nick Mingione just didn't even blink in the eyes. He's kind of smiling about it over there too. I think he's thinking Tennessee game. They went with pretty much this exact same order last week against Tennessee. So they flipped the ball to their veteran left-hander, hoping, number one, he can get them out of this inning. But number two, this is the kind of guy that could take them the rest of the way.
He enters the game in a 2-2 game with Kentucky the go-ahead run at first. Vanderbilt needs win number 13 in conference to feel good about their at-large possibilities. Kentucky trying to win the SEC regular season title outright as Mitchell Daly takes a strike. It's 0-1. Thompson ended up getting dinged for 2 solo homers. He pitched in and out of traffic, 109 pitches to get 14 outs today. Go-ahead run at first. Runner goes, swung and a miss. The throw by Espinal on the money. He is out at second, and the inning is over. Espinal gunning down Lopez to end the 5th. We head to the 6th inning. They're going to challenge this, I think. Is that what we're looking at here? We're waiting to see. Nick Mingione is out arguing at second base. Damian Beal, our umpire, but he hasn't mentioned the challenge yet. Now they're going to do it. I think what, Berkey, what happened there was Beal called him out, and then it was pretty clear that Lopez slid past the bag, and then he said something there. Berkey will show up fashionably late as always.
Interesting.
Not getting there till Wednesday, huh?
Well, I'll be there on Tuesday, but they're just not putting me in the booth till Wednesday.
First pitch is swung out and missed by Colin Barcy. It's 0-1.
I was told my services weren't needed initially.
What course will you be playing?
Good question.
I did get asked yesterday by the Gold Glove Award winner Doug Flynn, who does the digital games for Kentucky, how your golf game was. And I said, to be honest, I don't think Berkey and I have ever talked about golf because you know my game is so bad. It's not even worth having a conversation with me about. So how is your golf game?
It's kind of dormant, honestly. We're just trying to resurrect it at the moment because there's going to be some people that really trying to get my pocketbook next week. So I need to figure it out in about 3 days.
Outside, 2-2. Yeah, don't let Mike Monaco shark you there or in Omaha.
No, Monaco's not on the radar.
Oh.
We've put that's not. But KP and Dave Neal are both drooling at the opportunity to knowing my game is essentially non-existent at the moment.
KP will try and squeeze in 9 during an inning break. So here's the 3-2. Chop back to the mound. Going to be a tough play for more. Throw into the runner, and it kicks into shallow right, but he'll have to hold on. That was a very difficult play for the pitcher Moore.
Yeah, that's one of those tweeners where I think Daly could have made the play, but once your pitcher's under it, you kind of got to let him do it himself. And then the throw becomes you see, Daly's going to make this play, but now Daly just has to get out of the way, and that throw becomes nearly impossible.
Even on a second hop, I think it would have been very difficult to get Barcy. And here's Polk. This is maybe the guy you want at the plate for Vanderbilt right now. 5 hits in this series, a hit and a run scored today, an infield single that he beat out. He rips it through the left side. It's a base hit. Barcy to second. And Vanderbilt threatening. They have the first 2 aboard in the 6th in this tie game. That's 10 hits now for the Commodores.
First pitch swinging, Matthew Polk gets a fastball up and out over the plate, and this is a bullet in the 6 hole. I wonder if that's it for Mr. Moore. Got to believe we're going to get a bunt here from J.D. Rogers. It looks like
Jackson Novi and Cameron O'Brien both getting loose on the Kentucky bullpen.
Looks like Kentucky's going to stick with Moore here.
Rogers single to left. And a ground out back to the mound as a bluff to second. And some fans insisting that Moore focus on the hitter. Rogers does square to bunt and bunts it foul at the plate.
Quick to get out of there. This is one of those where this is a true sacrifice bunt situation, and if you're J.D. Rogers, this is one of those deals where there's nowhere to run. It literally doesn't even matter if you attempt to get to first base. The goal is to get the lead runners 90 feet forward, and you just don't want to be quick to exit the box until that ball is down and in fair territory.
Now, Nicholson, the first baseman, was really crashing. The third baseman, Daly, was staying home. That happens again as he bunts it foul. It's 0-2.
Yeah, and Mike, I don't know if you agree, but he just looks a little late there. Those don't look like just pure sacrifice bunt technique, and now Tim Corbin's going to have a chat.
Rogers doesn't look like he is built as a guy who would do a whole lot of bunting through certainly his high school career.
So, Mike, check out the Kentucky bench here. We talked about how they like to have fun. This is between hitters after the first 2 hitters reach. Look at this.
They all switch positions.
Everybody has to change up to mojo and move to a different spot in the dugout. How classic is that? I was like, what are they doing? I just caught it, and then I realized, they're just
new karma spot.
That's it. Two dudes on. We obviously are standing in the wrong place.
Rogers going to square early here. Nicholson already creeping in at first. And now he takes high. It's 1-2.
So, yeah, the old slash right there. What's funny is, to me, like, if you're sacking, that's pretty much how early you should be showing it. If a true sack bunt is what was put on.
He's not bunting that time and takes strike 3. That's out number 1.
Boy, that's got to be frustrating for Tim Corbin, just the inability to get the job done. And that looked like it was on the pitch and on the swing there. J.D. Rogers comes up empty on a 2-strike breaking ball. Nice pitch there from Mason Moore. And Vanderbilt unable to execute the inside game here, and now the big first baseman Holcomb gets a chance.
6 strikeouts for Moore, 1 out. Holcomb with big power. Vanderbilt trying to reclaim the lead here in the 6th. Trying to get conference win number 13 on the year. That one outside, it's 2-0. That's going to send Burks out. Well, he's being careful here. He knows that Holcomb has big power.
Mm-hmm. Well, and they've also got him to chase that breaking ball earlier in the ball game, right? So you're kind of going back to the well to see if you can get the youngster to expand the strike zone. But Holcomb holds off, and now definitely in the driver's seat. And this is where you got to ask yourself, what do you feel most comfortable with besides the fastball to land in the strike zone? Because you do not want to get caught throwing something firm in the middle of the plate against Mr. Holcomb.
The 2-0. There's a strike.
There you go. And that, to me, is where Devin Burks, the poise and the experience, go out there, talk to your right hand. Hey, what do you want to throw here? Like, what do we believe in the most?
2-1. Upstairs, it's 3-1 to Holcomb. 3 balls, 1 strike, 1 out. Vanderbilt and Kentucky tied the 6th. The pitch. There's a strike on the inside corner. Holcomb didn't seem to like it.
Changeup.
One thing we heard is that when he's going well, it's moving the changeup to both sides of the plate, right?
Yeah. How about that?
So coming in the front door to a righty with it.
Arm side changeup.
And now the count's full with 1 out. The pitch. In the dirt, ball 4, and the bases are loaded. And the number 9 hitter, Calvin Hewitt, will bat. Hewitt doubled home a run in the second. He singled to center. And as Moore approaches 100 pitches, Nick Mingione sticking with his Sunday starter.
No, he's not.
For that moment, he was. For the 6th, Vanderbilt has the bases loaded. The senior Hewitt at the plate. First pitch in the dirt, stopped by Burks. It's 1-0.
There's that breaking ball right out of the gate. That was more of the bigger curveball right there.
Hewitt hit his first home run since 2022 last night. He's had a solid day at the plate, and he takes inside 2-0. Well, he's kind of striding towards the plate. That one stood him up.
Mm-hmm.
He must be thinking the same thing, Berkey, that everything's going to work away from him. Pitch. He lines it into right center field. It's a base hit. 1 run is home. 2 runs are going to score. The senior with a huge hit. Calvin Hewitt's 3rd of the day has given Vanderbilt a 4-2 lead in the 6th.
Boy, have a day, kid. Calvin Hewitt, kind of been in and out of the lineup this year. Finds himself with one of the biggest at-bats of the Vanderbilt season. Gets a fastball out over the plate. What a beautiful move. Threw that baseball out and just to the right of center field. Just how every hitting coach would draw it up right there. Get you a fastball up and out over the plate. Keep your barrel direction back through the middle. And a huge swing of the bat. 2 ribbies for Vanderbilt as they jump out to a 2-run lead. And just as you said, Mike, that was a 1-hitter appearance there for Mr. O'Brien.
O'Brien's day is done. Novi getting loose in the 7 through 12 seeding. A lot of those teams, all of them really, fighting for a chance to make the NCAA tournament. And fighting, I think, is the key word in that, because it's not like last year where you had a pretty good idea of who was getting in from the SEC. The top 6 are probably going to host, but beyond that, this is a real battle. Vastine hits here. Vanderbilt leading 4-2. Good drag bunt. The first base side. Past the pitcher, and a base hit for Vastine, and it's 5-2 Vanderbilt. A perfectly executed safety squeeze.
I mean, this is big time. You know, Mike, I don't even know if I'd call this. This looked like you're right. He was early enough. That was kind of a safety swing. But the slug, it's right at the end. You tell young hitters, watch it. There's a hit to it. See how he kind of hits it? Like when you're trying to get it past the pitcher, you're not just leaving the barrel out there in a traditional bunt where you kind of catch the ball with the bat. At the end of that, that's why they call it a slug bunt. At the end of the slug bunt or push bunt, you got to hit it a little bit. And, man, that was textbook by Vastine.
Here's Davis Diaz, who had a home run early in this game, and he lines it into left field. It's a base hit. Hewitt around third. He will come home to score. Diaz has knocked in 3, and it's 6-2 Vanderbilt. Excuse me, he's knocked in 2. A solo homer in the 3rd, and that RBI base hit. Well, the big man coming up big today for the Commodores.
Wow, this Vandy offense is cooking right now. First pitch, breaking ball, Diaz right on time. A rocket into left field, and Vandy's showing us a little bit of everything in this inning. Some competitive at-bats to get on base, a little bit of small ball, clutch hits, runners in scoring position. Vanderbilt clicking on all cylinders right now.
R.J. Austin perfect today, and that's 6-2. There's a strike.
So I just want to go back to, nerd out on some of these numbers. J.D. Thompson having a 39% whiff rate on his fastball. You know what Hummel's is? 9. So
Austin on the ground to short, to second for one, and a good turn by Petrie to get out of the inning. Vanderbilt scores 4 times, though, for 5.5. The Commodores lead the Wildcats 6-2. Nicholson McCarthy for Kentucky here. And the count 1-1. We're going to start keeping an eye on the scoreboard with the other SEC action as it gets underway this afternoon. And Daly hit by a pitch to start the 6th inning for Kentucky.
Well, that is not the way you want to draw it up after your team puts up a 4 spot. The old HBP has started quite a few rallies in the history of this game, especially with a team like Kentucky that plays such a momentum style of offense. That being said, you got to feel pretty good if you're Vanderbilt. Devin Futrell, a veteran pitcher, being handed this kind of lead after entering the game in the bottom of the 5th. What a perfect guy to have on the mound out here as Vandy tries to salvage one.
Nicholson rips it foul. Nicholson already homered off a lefty in this one. His 17th of the season, the transfer from Cincinnati.
Mike, he has 17 homers, 15 in the conference. It's incredible.
I mean, it's supposed to get tougher when you go from the American Athletic Conference to the SEC, right?
And you know, his career high, that hit him.
That hit him as well? It did. The first 2 have reached here for Kentucky in the 6th. So after giving up a 4 spot, they're already putting pressure on Vanderbilt. Back-to-back hit by pitches. Remember, they were hit 8 times last night.
Boy, and that is just so uncharacteristic of Futrell. And fortunately, Nicholson's okay. But you talk about taking the wind out of your sails if you're in that Vandy dugout. And again, glad you've got the cushion you currently can rest in, but it gets a little interesting when an inning starts this way.
Scott Brown, the pitch.
But the other part about playing Kentucky is a huge piece of that meeting on the mound right there with Scott Brown was all about your defense. What are we going to do here? Because you're pretty certain Kentucky's going to do something, whether that be bunt or slash, maybe bunt for a hit.
First pitch, McCarthy squares the bunt, takes a strike on the inside corner, 0-1.
And that was a take all the way. McCarthy it looked like he was almost straddling home plate. He was so close to the plate there. He's much further off now. That was the guys hit 2 in a row. Let's see if we can get him to hit 3 in a row. And that wasn't too far off.
The 0-1, he takes the changeup away. It's 1-1.
That's the pitch with Futrell. It's the changeup is where he butters his bread, so to speak. 45% whiff rate on that pitch.
Vanderbilt playing in at the corners here. Again, Kentucky's down 4. The pitch. Foul tip. 1-2. I mean, I guess I would be a little surprised if I didn't think Kentucky used the bunt as an offensive weapon, right? Like it's not just bunting for sacrifices, it's bunting for hits for them.
All of it.
Now everybody will back up. 1-2 the count. Spin move to second. And the courtesy toss.
Yeah. The amount of essentially timeouts that are taken with that in the modern game is an issue that continues to need to be addressed, I think.
The 1-2. Foul tip into the glove. And the first out, and a big one there for Futrell. 1 out.
First glance, I couldn't tell if that was the changeup or the slider. It looked like the breaking ball there. You see the dot on the baseball. McCarthy goes down swinging, and Futrell with a big strikeout there after a very shaky start to this frame.
Patrick Herrera's going to come off the bench to hit. The junior from Mesa, Arizona. He was playing a little third base last week. Mitchell Daly was playing short with Grant Smith down. So Herrera, the transfer from Northwestern, will come in with 2 on and 1 out and face the lefty Futrell. Vanderbilt up 4 in the bottom of the 6th. First pitch in the dirt, 1-0. So Herrera hitting for McCoy. Kentucky hitless with men in scoring position today, 0 for 9. There's a strike. It's 1-1. Both their runs have scored on solo homers. They have had opportunities despite the fact they have just 5 hits. In fact, this is the second inning where the first 2 hitters either walked or were hit by pitches. They didn't score in the first. And now Herrera hits that one to right on the run. Rogers can't get it. It's a base hit. The runners will move up 90 feet, and now the bases are loaded with 1 out for Grant Smith.
And Nick Mingione continuing to press all the right buttons. Yeah, let's go with Patrick Herrera here in this spot. Herrera came in with only 15 at-bats in SEC play all year long, inside out. This ball into right field. J.D. Rogers thought about it and then put on the brakes late. And now Grant Smith with another opportunity here with runners on base.
Smith today 0 for 2. He's grounded out and struck out his last trip. Kentucky fans trying to get behind the number 9 hitter as he swings and misses. It's 0-1.
There's that changeup from Futrell. That thing is just nasty. Just does a fantastic job of keeping his arm speed up with that pitch.
The 0-1, way high and away, 1-1. Just about any result here for Kentucky would be okay, save for a double play, because Waldschmidt is waiting in the on-deck circle. Upstairs, 2-1, and Ryan Waldschmidt is the guy that you want to have at the plate in this spot. Even if there's 2 outs.
Yeah, no question about it. And after 3 straight changeups with that man, Ryan Waldschmidt, on deck, you got to believe there's a fastball coming right here if you're Grant Smith.
2-1, the pitch. Takes a strike.
Wow. Bases loaded, 2-1 count, Mike Farron. Fastball right down Broadway. Grant Smith sitting on a changeup, I'm not sure, but that was a missed opportunity to not pull the trigger on that pitch.
2-2 the count. Futrell set. The pitch. Swinging a grounder to second, that could be 2. Austin to Vastine to Holcomb, double play. Futrell gets out of the bases loaded jam. As for sharing that with us, Espinal got his degree in medicine, health, and society. As he takes the first pitch, Jack Bolger, who's been a key contributor the last several years, got a degree in econ with a minor in business and one in digital fabrication. And Calvin Hewitt, who's had a huge day today, including the go-ahead 2-run single in the 6th inning, a degree in human and organizational development. Those do seem to dwarf my media studies degree from Loras College.
Where do you go after human and organizational development? Like, where's that take you next?
I think you can do a PhD program.
Okay.
I believe, I'm guessing, because, again, I have a media studies degree, and I did not go to a school like Vanderbilt. No, I mean, if there's any fellow Duhawks listening, we all know that Harvard is often called the Loras of the East. But I believe it would be like running human resource departments. Espinal clubs it deep and foul.
All right, I'm with you. I mean, maybe you just, like when you apply for a job, people just don't even worry about what it says after Vanderbilt. It just says Vanderbilt, and then the rest is who cares.
Yeah. If somebody is listening and on Twitter who can help us understand better what that major would entail,
I'm all ears.
I'd love to know. I actually would love to know. I'm way up high, and Espinal draws a leadoff walk here in the Vanderbilt 7th. They lead 6-2. That was pretty cool, though. They also had framed
that
gold
was
jerseys,
awesome.
those posters from something called Ath Posters. They do posters of athletes, and apparently they had started doing that last year. They had something like a dozen graduates, obviously, number of players who were still on the roster from the COVID years. But it was really cool, really beautiful artwork. And just imagine keeping that in your house for the rest of your life.
Yeah, that is a meaningful keepsake, no doubt about it.
Patrick Herrera, by the way, who pinch hit in the last inning, has stayed in the game. He's in right field. That one fouled back by Barcy. It's 0-2. Barcy got things started in the 6th inning. Chopper over the mound, and he beat out at first base. That infield single started a 4-run frame for Vanderbilt. They have the lead 6-2. And he swings and pops it up. Petrie has it for out number 1. The importance of this game, again, for Kentucky, they've already clinched a share of the SEC championship, just their 2nd in school history. They can win it outright with a victory today or a Tennessee loss. For Vanderbilt, they're trying to get to that 13-win mark in conference play, which would not necessarily take them off the bubble, but there might be a little less restless sleep in Hoover next week.
Yeah, I mean, I think that this win would not only get them to that 13 number that we've seen in the past is kind of the number to get to be included, but also really help their RPI case, because beating Kentucky at Kentucky is a RPI boost for sure.
Upstairs, it's 1-1. Vanderbilt coming in with an RPI in the 30s, 32 to be exact today to start the day. And RPI, of course, is dependent not just on who you play, but who your opponents have played. So that will fluctuate a little bit. Vanderbilt's going to use their 2nd offensive timeout here as Polk's going to have a quick chat.
The other thing that, of course, we don't know, we spend the next 8 days talking about, which is bid stealers, right? We do all these projections and conversations around who's on the bubble and who's going to get in, and then you get into conference tournament time and people start stealing bids, or they don't, right? You just don't know, right? Some of those conference tournaments go by the way of chalk, and some you get winners out of nowhere.
Pitch gets away from Burks, and on his way down to 2nd is Espinal. Well, there's a number of spots that would seem to be prime for it. The Big Ten, right? Illinois won the conference, and their RPI is in the 40s, so they are likely to be a 2nd bid at this point, with Nebraska, who's had a very good year overall. You would think the Pac-12 is ripe for that, up and in to Polk, as Oregon State is currently a half game ahead of Arizona. They're in, you would think, both of those teams, and then Oregon. But ASU, who has not had a great season, has been playing very well. Jacob Tobias has gone off the last couple of days. Swing and a miss. Boy, Polk was
and you have
trying to make it a 6-run lead.
You have a team like Cal that's probably a bubble team that's good enough to win that tournament, but might not be in for sure right now. That Sun Belt one is a league that could have a bid stealer, because there's a bunch of teams in that league that could win the conference tournament.
I think that's absolutely true. I mean, they're a multi-bid league, probably. That one lined down the left field line. It's a fair ball into the corner for Polk. Espinal will score. Polk continues his terrific series with an RBI double, his 3rd hit of the game, and Vanderbilt pushes the lead to 7-2.
This Vanderbilt offense just keeps rolling along. Hanging breaking ball right there that, had some depth to it, but up enough for Polk to get the barrel out in front and hook it into the left field corner. Vandy just keeps tacking on, getting off the field with that double play in the bottom of the 6th, and now adding an insurance run here in the top of the 7th.
J.D. Rogers bats 1 for 3. First pitch. Upstairs, it's 1-0. Zach Heist, Travis Smith, both getting loose in the Kentucky bullpen. Heist just 8 at-bats coming into today. Takes a strike. 1-1. Yeah, a couple other spots where there could be bid stolen. The Big East, UConn, when the regular season, Xavier has a very good RPI. And there's a chance that could be a 3-bid league. The Coastal, congratulations to College of Charleston on winning the regular season there. East Carolina and in the American, and Indiana State in the Missouri Valley, those are 1-bid leagues most likely. So you're right, there are a lot of spots that are open for that. We put the West Coast Conference there too with San Diego, who's a likely at-large. Another one in the dirt that gets away from Burks, and the runner will move to third. So I think to your point, it feels like there's maybe in those spots there are more bids that feel like they are up for grabs than in other seasons.
Yes, and I just think, Mark Etheridge, the
Nerdmaster General, the fantastic writer at
D1Baseball.com, he always says, conferences don't get bids, teams do.
Called strike 3. Rogers is out for out number 2.
But I would say that, there are some conferences, we've been talking about it with the SEC, say, that you feel like it's a pretty standard quota of 8 to 10. And we've said it already, like 6 are in from the SEC. It just feels impossible to me that there's not going to be another 2 to 4 in. So you end up almost having your own bubble within the league this year.
Here's Braden Holcomb. He takes in the dirt and gets through the wickets on Burks, and coming home to score is Polk. It's 8-2 Vanderbilt. Miller Green getting loose in the Vanderbilt pen. Ryan Waldschmidt. And there you get an update on Tennessee leading South Carolina 4-0. So Tennessee wins, Kentucky loses. They'll finish tied for the conference title.
Now, how about this? South Carolina's a perfect example. Okay, so South Carolina. Remember when? I don't feel like this has been as big a deal because I feel like the tournament chairs recently have really tried to back off of this. But there for a while, there was the whole, how did you finish?
Yeah,
right?
last 10 was really
last
important.
10, remember that? Well, South Carolina don't want you to look at that.
I mean, Vandy doesn't either.
No. But for South Carolina specifically, they could be coming in on the heels of 6 straight.
I want to talk about your bubble within the bubble concept, which is, I mean, I do enjoy a double bubble from time to time, but I need to mention this too. If Tennessee wins today and Kentucky loses, Tennessee will be the number 1 seed in Hoover because they won the head-to-head with Kentucky this year. They took 2 out of 3. So Kentucky would be the 3 seed if they lose and Tennessee wins. That went to second. Austin will throw out Waldschmidt 1 out. And that's because Arkansas won the other division. So Arkansas, because they won the West, will be the number 2 seed. So that's what's kind of a play for seeding in Hoover. But this idea that there's a bubble within the bubble on those 12 and 11 in case of Ole Miss coming into today, 11, 12, 13 win teams. Go a little deeper into that because I'm not sure that I understand the double bubble.
Okay, well, so normally the SEC, let's just obviously we're it's right here in front of us, has at this time of year that you feel great about, let's say 8 teams, and then
Petrie to left, and that one will get out of play.
Then there are 2 teams. Let's just again being hypothetical. 2 teams on the bubble, and you're sitting there going, okay, let's just be hypothetical. Okay, Kentucky and Vanderbilt are on the bubble, and you're thinking, okay, well, who are the bid stealers, or who's the ACC bubble teams, or and you're going against them. Well, this year, there's so many of these SEC bubble teams that it's almost like, okay, 6 are in. The league's probably, I'll split the difference between 8 and 10. Let's say the league's going to get 9.
In the year to center.
So, instead of, as Hewitt's going to camp under this one, instead of, probably right, but we go off precedent, and precedent tells us they're not going to take 12 teams. They've never taken more than 10.
Right, and I think it also is, you have to have the deserving resume, right? As Burks lines that in the left field for a 2-out single. The other part of it is that just because, I get that there's a separation talent-wise between the SEC and other leagues, but at some point, you have to win games, right?
Correct.
We ran into this in college football last year. And to go back to your earlier point that you made, I'm going to use your words against you, or actually Mark Etheridge's against you.
Okay.
Conferences don't get leagues.
Those aren't my words.
Teams get them, right? So it's the team's resume.
It is, but all of them have worthy RPIs. The only metric they don't add up with is their conference win-loss record, which happens to be in the best conference. And some of those are very unbalanced. They're all unbalanced schedules, but some of them are very unfair, so to speak, or very different. Let's say that unbalanced schedules.
Well, I think that's the most valid point to any of the big leagues and their conference record. If you're looking for teams that maybe have the overall resume but are further back in the pecking order, right? Like that, whether it's RPI or non-conference strength of schedule or what they did out of conference, those are more important, I think, to some degree than conference record because it is unbalanced.
Right. I think we make such a big deal about conference record because historically there has been a benchmark of you better get to at least 13. But almost always even the 13 number was tied to RPI. I think we've made the case very well on this broadcast. Like all of those teams that could get to 13 have the right RPI. Their RPI is healthy enough.
But I think the other part of it is,
but that's
and this is the part
past,
that I still have, right, and this is something that I still struggle with because in the end, and I think most fans would agree with this, is you play to win the game, right? And so if you're not winning enough games in your conference, no matter how tough it is, do you really have that resume? I mean, is your resume as good as somebody that maybe has a much higher RPI but that dominated their conference? Are you more deserving, right? Because the bulk of your schedule is played in conference. And so I think there's that delicate balance in it, and that's like I don't envy the committee at all.
No, it's hard.
Listen, being on the committee is both an awesome and thankless task, right? And I respect the heck out of it. I'm going to criticize them like no tomorrow because that's what we do, right? That's what we do with the committee is we criticize their decisions because so much of it is subjective. We can't all have, Mike Rooney's wish of putting all 305 teams in and see if we can get Maryland Eastern Shore a win.
No, everybody doesn't get a trophy, Runes. Hey, now.
In the air to left, going back out of Polk, still going back to the fence. Leaps, it's off the wall. Coming home to score is Burks. It's an RBI double for Nick Lopez. And Kentucky cuts the lead to 8-3. But now the bigger concern is on Polk, who hit his back and head pretty hard against the fence. Hewitt over right away and calling for the trainer. And boy, Polk, who's been so terrific in this series, certainly hope he is okay.
Yeah, you talk about it. Full throttle going after that one. I mean, he once he realizes this ball's got a chance to get out of the ballpark, he hits the Jets and then just throws his body into that wall to make that play. And that is just no concern with what's going to happen after the fact. That is letting it rip for your boys, trying to make a play. Just came up inches short. Looks like he's all right.
It almost felt like he thought he had one more step before he ran into the fence. And
well, he did turn his back to it, so he did make the wise move of at least putting himself in a position where your back takes the blow instead of maybe your front or your shoulder being in a really awkward spot.
I also wonder if he hit right up against a post there because that wall did not give at all. I mean, it is padded, but
Looks like he's all right.
Yeah, he's all right. He's staying in. 8-3 Vanderbilt. And here's Mitchell Daly. Daly with a double in this one. He swings and pops it up, fouled out of play. Also been hit by a pitch. Kentucky's had some chances. They've had a pair of first and second nobody out situations that they could not cash in. That was a big extra base hit for Lopez in that it keeps them in this game. Daly the other way to right. Long run for Rogers. That one will get out of play, foul.
I think at the end of the day, back to your comment on the league record, I think if the, what is there, 40, what is it, like 43 something at-large bids, whatever it is, if the task of the committee was just who do you think are the best at-large teams, you'd make a case every year that 12, 13, maybe even some years 14 of the SEC teams belong in. But that's not exactly their task.
Swing and a miss. Daly said he got a piece of it, and Jeff Head agrees. It's a foul ball.
I think the most deserving part is where, it can get very gray, as we see Daly just barely got a piece of that, and it certainly bounced before Espinal caught it.
The 0-2 again. On the ground to third. Diaz has it. Throws low to first. A nice pick there by Holcomb, and the inning is over. Kentucky gets a run. They leave a man. We head to the eighth. Vanderbilt leading Kentucky 8-3. Has had a big day. 3 hits, including a go-ahead 2-run single back in the 6th. Part of a 4-run inning that gave Vanderbilt control of this game. Now, we mentioned earlier that Hewitt just got his degree this last week. He was one of those players that was honored. I do have an update for you on Alan Espinal's degree. We opined, we were wondering what human and organizational development degree does. Jason weighed in on Twitter and said it does put you on the HR path.
Okay.
So that's good. Jason, thank you very much. Appreciate you watching and letting us understand the quality education that I longed to receive.
Yes.
2-2. Hewitt fouls it away. Hit him. Hewitt's been on base all 4 times today. 2 singles, a double, 3 runs knocked in. And just a quick reminder for you that if you're tuning in, expecting to see Arkansas and Texas A&M in a couple of minutes, that game will start on the ESPN app with Tom Hart and Kyle Peterson. Coming up at the top of the hour, they will be in College Station. Here's Jonathan Vastine. Vastine with a big drag bunt single that pushed home a run in the 6th. 1 for 4 today. On the ground to second, that could be 2. To Smith for 1, on to first, not in time. Vastine just did get there. Fielder's choice, 1 out.
Well, that was pretty nifty turn right there by Petrie. Just did a fantastic job. This ball is not hit hard. Watch Petrie flip his hips. Flip those hips, give your shortstop a glove side feed. Smith there, rear back for his fastball. We've seen him throw a couple touch passes across the field, but that was the heater. But Vastine just too fast They're a half step ahead of the throw by Smith. This Kentucky middle infield is fun to watch play.
Davis Diaz is homered and driven in a run with a single in the 6th inning. He checks and takes a strike, 0-1. Boy, they could really use to get his bat going. Couple homers the last 2 days for Diaz. Maybe that's a good sign for the Vanderbilt offense.
Yeah, he's due a heater.
Swing and a miss. 0-2.
The second 2 games of the Tennessee series, he batted 9th. Saturday and Sunday of last weekend, he had been bumped down to the 9 hole, but responded very well to that, and now finds himself back up where you would expect here in the 2 spot. He's hit 3rd for Vanderbilt a lot of the year as well.
He's a guy that has not hit for a high average at Vanderbilt, but he has hit for power, and the power numbers have been down just a tick this year. But as we know, in this season, we've seen it from several different hitters. If you're a good hitter or you have power, 1 week can turn things around. I mean, think about how many guys we've seen go on 4, 5, 6. Heck, Charlie Condon feels like he's on a 50-game home run streak right now.
Well, I think also, from Vanderbilt's perspective, you don't get to Vanderbilt without being immensely talented. And they have good players. What they haven't had the last couple of years is anybody make a kind of a unexpected leap, say like we've talked about with Waldschmidt this year, or, fill in the blank. And so a guy like Diaz, who is certainly a candidate to do that, when he doesn't, or in some respects, backs up, that's just something as an offense that makes life much more difficult than maybe you anticipated.
Their offense in the last couple of weeks has been affected by a key injury, as that one popped up with the runner going. Burks runs out of space. Jaden Davis had been their leading hitter this year. He suffered an orbital bone fracture at the beginning of May. There's a chance he could be back at some point during the NCAA postseason. Chris Maldonado is the guy that they really miss. I mean, he was their first baseman. He played just 5 games this year before going out due to a shoulder injury. And that's affected what they do offensively and defensively. I mean, R.J. Austin's had to play a fair amount of first base. They've had to move him around a little bit when he's really a dynamic middle-of-the-field player. Runner goes. Pitch is low, throw down to second. Well, it doesn't matter. It's ball 4. So 2 on.
Yeah, I mean, a big part of the story with this Vanderbilt team is some veterans they were hoping were going to make big jumps, whether that's Jack Bolger or Troy Leneve. You had the freshman Camden Kojal, who got off to such a big start in the non-conference, but backed up a little bit once SEC play began. They just haven't had a player pop up with that monster season that you really need in this league. And at times their offense has been good enough, but in other times it's lacked that juice that you need to get through these conference weekends.
Had a good day today, though, plating 8 runs and leading by 5 here in the top of the 8th. They've also dealt with injuries on the mound. I think Sawyer Hawks was going to be a key guy for them this year. He has been out. Ethan McIlvain, the talented freshman, has been hurt. I mean, there's been a lot of injuries to the pitching staff, and that's received most of the attention, I think, and probably helps to explain why. Maybe it doesn't explain why they've struggled to throw strikes on the road, but it certainly seems like it would help to explain why they have had some scuffles in the bullpen.
Yeah, no, I think they're definitely a few arms lighter than they anticipated being. And so often when a team underperforms expectations, that's the story. You talk to Chris Lemonis, what's been the biggest issue with Mississippi State over the last couple of years? It's injuries on the mound. I mean, He said, each of the last 2 years they've had as many as 7 of their top 10 preseason pitchers out throughout the course of the year. That's just tough to withstand in a league that's so unforgiving.
Chop towards the middle. Smith to first, not in time. Fielder's choice, 2 outs. And it'll bring up Espinal.
R.J. Austin, pretty tough guy to double off. Grant Smith does all he can right there on the ball, not hit particularly hard. But R.J. Austin, I mean, just getting to the front part of the base, running with his hair on fire. Just all gas, no brakes at all times.
Espinal 0 for 3 with a walk and a run scored. 8-3 Vanderbilt, top of the 8th. And you mentioned that's the difference for Mississippi State this year. I think that's been what's plagued Ole Miss the last 2 years too, has been injuries to the mound.
Yeah.
So many key guys, and it just, even if you are talented when you're young, you don't know what to expect, right? I mean, that's, I think, at any level of baseball, first-year players do not have a linear path to get better. It's fits and starts, and sometimes you have guys that come in and dominate right away and put up big numbers, but for the most part,
Who's going to win and who's going to lose? And you take 2 or 3 of those kids off of that roster, everything looks different, right? Florida last year, they had Wyatt Langford, Brandon Sproat, Hurston Waldrop. You take those 3 off, they're struggling to make the tournament.
Here's the 1-0 to Espinal. There's a strike. It's 1-1.
So the margins are, oh, look at this
A little delayed steal for R.J. Austin. Nobody moving, nobody paying attention, and so he gets an extra 90 feet.
But you either take players off of a roster that teams were leaning on because of injury, or you get underperformance, or certainly you get a group of players that you just can't replace. And the difference between 18 and 12 and 12 and 18 can happen in a heartbeat.
Yeah, it's what, 1 game difference over less than half of your conference schedule. Upstairs, it's 2-2.
That's a good pitch. Devin Burks wanted that one. You see him asking Jeff Head, was that up? I think the home crowd wanted that one as well.
They do seem aggrieved. 2-2 the count. The pitch lined into left field. That's a base hit. 2 runs are going to come home to score. Alan Espinal's made it a 10-3 lead for Vanderbilt.
Wow. And right after a pitch where Kentucky thought they'd gotten off the field, Highs hangs a breaking ball. Espinal is right on time for it. And a bullet between short and third. You know R.J. Austin scoring. Alan Espinal adding to this Vanderbilt lead.
First pitch to Colin Barcy. Misses. It's 1-0. Barcy started the 4-run rally in the 6th with an infield single. He's 1 for 4. He takes a strike. It's 1-1. Tennessee is leading South Carolina 4-0 in the top of the 8th. Again, if this score holds and Tennessee wins, Kentucky and Tennessee will share the SEC regular season championship. Do Tennessee fans and Kentucky fans generally share things well?
No, they don't.
Flipper into shallow right, out the second baseman Petrie. In comes the right fielder Herrera, makes the catch, and the inning is already clinched his share of it. First pitch to Ryan Nicholson misses low, 1-0. You know, I was looking back in some of my Kentucky history here. That 2006 team, Berkey, that won the SEC, the first ever baseball SEC regular season championship for Kentucky, was a team that had won 7 games in the SEC the year before. Now, they had some talent that had come in. John Cohen was the head coach there, now the athletic director at Auburn. He led Mississippi State to a College World Series final. But that team had won 7 games the year before winning 20 in the SEC the next year. That's an incredible comeback.
What a turnaround.
That was also Nick Mingione's first year at Kentucky. You can get a look at the banner there for the 2006 championship. Mingione had been an assistant at his alma mater, Emory-Riddle, before an NAIA school. And he joined John Cohen's staff, and it had a huge impact on him. He said when he went with Cohen to Starkville to join him at Mississippi State, as Nicholson clubs that one up the alley in right center field, it's going to be extra bases. It bounces out of play for an automatic double. But when he got there, he met his wife in Starkville, and they were out on one of their first dates, and they were talking about their...
Yeah, but Minge is certainly one of them.
First pitch to McCarthy, popped up foul ground. Holcomb does not have room.
And, I think the story of Nick Mingione here is so neat, too, because he took over a very talented team in 2017, led them to the Super Regional. They get beat by the rival school down the road, University of Louisville, who had just a loaded team that year in 2017. But Minge, comes in, energizes that group of players. And then the next year's team, maybe you could argue, underperformed. Then a couple years in the wilderness. But as you said, really starting in 22, which they could have easily been an at-large team in 22, there has been a turning of the page here with the program. And a lot of it has to do with the fact that he's now in the third base coaching box. Like he's kind of taking himself back onto the field and putting himself right back in the mix of everything they're doing.
He has such a great energy about him. One of the things he told us earlier this year is that several of his players do impressions of him, and they're comfortable enough that they do it in front of him.
Yeah.
So James McCoy, who started the game and is now out of it, has maybe the best one. But, how many coaches do you know that would do that?
No. I was just about to say, we had plenty of impressions of Coach Delmonico, but he didn't know any of them.
Do you think you could do them now?
Oh, do I think? Yeah, no, I wasn't by any means the best guy. I had some teammates that were, perfect at it. But, yes, if we got together, we would all be giggling about it.
I guess that, Mike Martin, the late legendary coach at Florida State, everybody who played for 11 had an impression of him, right? I have to think that he heard more than one of those dadgum impressions at some point.
As somebody that does a lot of coaching now of teams, one of the football teams that I coached a few years ago, the head coach allowed some of the players to do impressions at our banquet, and the impression of me made me laugh. I mean, I almost fell out of my chair. I was laughing so hard.
Grounder back through the middle. It's a base hit for McCarthy. Nicholson's going to come home to score an RBI single, and it's a 10-4 game. Well, Kentucky not going quietly.
No. Mingione pointing out his guy McCarthy for an RBI base hit right back up the box.
Patrick Herrera, who entered the game as a pinch hitter and singled in the 6th. Now, Kentucky hoping, regardless of what the outcome is today, to be healthy going into the NCAA tournament. As you mentioned before, there's a very good chance that they end up being the number 1 overall seed.
Does anybody want that?
The last time the number 1 overall seed won in the Super Regional era was the first year of the Super Regional era, Miami, 1999.
Nobody this century. Pretty wild.
No.
Now, at this point, do you start to go, well, then you definitely don't want to be it, or at some point that's going to snap?
It's got to change, right? The law of averages says anything will happen that can, right?
That's right. People keep asking me, I do these interviews, people keep asking me why I think that is. I mean, we've had plenty of those teams get close, right? And I think about that Oregon State team that lost to LSU in the national semifinals a few years back, and then, of course, won it the next year. And I think Vanderbilt beat Virginia when Virginia was the number one national seed all year long. I think for Tim Corbin's first World Series, I think that Virginia team was the number one seed, got all the way to Game 3 of the College World Series Finals.
And then Vanderbilt was the number one
the very
team
next
the next year, right?
Right.
Well, I guess they were not the number one in the tournament, though, right? They had to go on the road. I think they had to go on the road to Illinois, right, to play that super regional. Do I remember that right?
The next year, yeah, you're right. I think you're
that's right.
Yeah.
That they had to go to Illinois. Of
That's
all
right.
places, Illinois had a terrific year. Tyler J. is their
That's right.
ace, 2015.
But anyway, there have been plenty of teams that have certainly made it interesting along the way. But it's really, it's hard to pinpoint a reason other than baseball is a funny game. It's hard to play at a super high level for a very long period of time just because of the immense failure within the sport.
It just leads the sport lends itself to more randomness, and I can't give you a college example as Herrera's called out on strikes for the first out here in the 8th, but there was a study that was done on the 4 major North American professional sports a few years ago, and the idea behind it was that, as Tim Corbin's going to come,
you go, wait, we survived that, we're still standing,
and the reason we bring up the RPI in that too is that last year, the top 41 RPI teams, at least those that were eligible for the postseason, made it as, if they weren't automatic qualifiers, as at-larges. Kentucky has run into that. They ran into it in 22. Their RPI was in the high 20s, right? And they got left out. They got skipped over. They were the only one in the top 40 that got skipped. So generally speaking, all of those things, regardless of conference record, and I think regardless of if they won or lost today, would probably point to Vanderbilt being an NCAA tournament team. But you know what the precedence is, and only one team in SEC history has ever won 12 games in the regular season and made it to the field of 64. That was Alabama, went 12-17 one year. So they didn't even get to 18 losses. They had a game that was rained out. And so this is why we have been stressing this number and why it's so important for so many of these teams that are playing today on the final weekend. Shot foul.
Yeah, who would have thought we'd have this many teams right around that number? I mean, it's just a really odd year in the SEC from a standpoint of the bubble. And I think you could say also really odd how many – I mean, Arkansas, Kentucky, Tennessee already with 20 wins. A&M's got a chance today to get to 19.
And they have the early lead on Arkansas as Smith goes down swinging. We should mention, too, that in addition to the RPI, one of the basic requirements is you need to be over 500 in order to qualify for the tournament as an at-large. Florida is 27-26. They have just taken the lead on Georgia. They lead 4-3 in the top of the 4th. They're trying to salvage the finale in that series. Ole Miss is 27-27. They trail LSU 2-0 in the top of the 4th. And that's a super critical game for Ole Miss because if they go into Hoover at 11-19, they have to win the tournament almost assuredly for them to get in. They have a strong RPI. Their non-conference strength of schedule is very good. Mm-hmm. They have one of the toughest overall strength of schedules in the country, but they need that extra bit. Swing and a miss by Waldschmidt. It's 1-1.
Shocker. Kaggs hit a 2-run homer for the Gators. Is that 29 or 30 for Mr. Caglione?
I can't even count anymore.
And Charlie Condon is 2 for 2 with a double and a couple ribeyes for the Dogs. So the Stars playing like Stars. That would be a ticket worth saving from the
Caglione against
Condon.
Yeah. Caglione went 2 1/3 on the mound today. And remember, Florida got a 3-run homer in the 10th inning from Luke Heyman yesterday to win that game over Georgia. just to get to this point where they can be hoping about going. And the reason why we say getting over 500 next week, obviously there's games in Hoover, but if that opening round, if you're not one of the top 4 seeds, you have to play a play-in game and to get into the double elimination. And so let's say Florida was 500 and they won that game. Well, they would still need to go 2-2 the rest of the way in order to finish above 500. Their RPI, strength of schedule, all of that is in good shape. But they need to be over 500 too. Cagliano's at 29 home runs after that one today.
Just 29. He's going to hit 30 back-to-back years.
Led the nation in homers a year ago. 3-2, runner goes, swing and a miss. Waldschmidt down on strikes. And the inning is over.
Completely dormant, but 10 today, and equally as important is the pitching performances they got from Thompson and Futrell.
First pitch is a strike to Matthew Polk. He has had a huge series and a big day today. 3 hits. Takes upstairs. 1-1. I'll tell you, before getting ready for this, because I've been on a lot of ACC broadcasts this year, I had not watched a lot of Polk until this week. This is a really, really good, fun player. A lot of energy. Last night on a ball that ended up getting reviewed that was foul in left field, when it went foul, everybody in the Kentucky bullpen is pointing fair. He's pointing foul, and he started doing a little hip shake dance. And he wears that one. And the leadoff man aboard here in the 9th. Cooper Robinson's the new pitcher here for Kentucky. You get a look at the junior from Folsom, California. City famous from song.
17 strikeouts in 12 2/3.
First pitch is a strike. This is a pinch hitter. Troy Leneve is hitting here, the senior outfielder. And he swings and hits one in the air to deep right field, back to the fence, and it's gone! A 2-run pinch homer, and it's 12-4 Vanderbilt. He's 6th of the year. And the Vandy fans have made the trip down excited.
Well, everything rolling here for the Commodores. And we talked about Troy Leneve a little bit ago, just talking about this Vanderbilt team and how they were hoping some of these veteran players would make a jump. Leneve, as much raw power as anybody on this Vanderbilt team, a bomb to straightaway right field as this Vanderbilt offense just pouring it on here in the 9th.
Braden Holcomb bats. Takes outside 1-0. What an interesting development with Holcomb today. A pair of walks. Selectivity has not been his strength his freshman year. There's been a little bit of swing and miss, but 2 walks, 1 strikeout for him for the powerful right-handed hitter. He's going to have to play an important role here, likely in Hoover and in the postseason. He lines that one, caught by Petrie, 1 out.
I'll tell you what's interesting to me too, Mike. We've talked a lot about this Kentucky offense and how dynamic it is and the power development this year. I got a question for you. Is there reason to be concerned about the pitching staff? You look at the last 5 series, okay, so counting today, and the last 15 conference games, they've given up double-digit runs in 7 of those.
I think, it's fair because they're not a team that misses a ton of bats. Mm-hmm. I think you get the advantage of they're going to be a host, right?
Yep.
So they're going to play a 4 seed to open. They're going to be able to save, if they want to pitch off, their best pitchers for games 2 and 3. I think it could be a factor in a super regional. Now, the one advantage they would have is that Kentucky Proud Park, as we talked to a lot of people about today, plays pretty fair. I mean, if the wind's blowing out, the ball's going to carry, but, that's just about any ballpark, right? And so maybe it negates it a little bit. I think it depends on who they match up with if they got to a super regional round. In Omaha, I actually think it plays okay because you can't be afraid of contact in that ballpark. As Hewitt's called out on strikes route number 2, because the ballpark is so big.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just it doesn't just lend itself to good pitching; it lends itself to any pitcher.
Yes, especially when the wind's blowing in. I think the wind there is the.
If it's hot, the wind is blowing in.
That's
if it's
right.
unseasonably cool, it's
the
blowing
wind blows out,
It's
right?
completely
And so
backwards.
again, so normally the wind blows in, and so the dimensions are spacious, but not crazy. It's mostly that there's usually a 15-mile-an-hour headwind coming right at you. I look at this Kentucky staff and you say, I've said all year long, one of the most unique things about this team is how team-centric it is. There's not a bunch of high-profile draft picks that are usually associated with an SEC championship team. And, if there's one thing that you just have a little pause about with this Kentucky team, it's can the pitching hold up when it's warm and the ball's jumping in those regional, super regional cage matches that oftentimes so many times pop up.
I mean, I think their offense can play in that because they
Sure.
can beat you a lot of different ways, and they clearly have power. I think at times, and this is going to sound almost sacrilegious, Vastine checks, I think at times we overvalue pitching compared to offense and defense in the postseason, right? So you could say that they, to me, it's do you miss bats, right? Not just do you miss barrels, but do you miss bats? That's the thing that I would look for in a pitching staff. Called strike 3. And the inning is over. Last chance for Kentucky. They trail 12-4, 7-3. That game's still in the top of the 4th. LSU leading Ole Miss 2-0 in the bottom of the 4th as the Tigers try to sweep that series. And A&M with an early 2-1 lead on Arkansas. That game top 2 in College Station. And that game will follow ours. Tom Hart and Kyle Peterson will be with you as soon as this one ends. Emilian Petrie takes outside. He's 1 for 3 with a home run. That tied the game back in the bottom of the 5th inning, but since then it's been almost entirely Vanderbilt. A 4-run 6th and a 2-run 7th helped to put things almost out of reach for Kentucky at this point. I hesitate to say out of reach because we have seen some
That's right.
Weird late comebacks this year. Think about Clemson against Florida State earlier this year where they scored 8 in the 9th. And Petrie rolls out over the bag at first. Holcomb has it. He'll take it himself. The leadoff man gone. No, it's a foul ball. Excuse me. Petrie got it off his foot.
Mike, just because I can't get enough bubble talk right now. So let's just say this, Vandy gets these,
You can go home and take a
outs.
bubble
Okay,
bath.
maybe.
On top of this.
Three outs, okay. Vandy holds on, wins this game. South Carolina and Vanderbilt will both be 13-17. South Carolina swept Vanderbilt. Now, you can't ignore that as a data point. Can you not?
Last year the committee did with K-State and Oklahoma. Oklahoma got swept by K-State. They made it into the tournament.
RPIs were right next to each other?
RPI was better for Oklahoma than it was. K-State had an RPI in the 50s.
That's what I'm saying. Like the RPIs.
Yeah, I mean, I think if it comes down to you're splitting hairs, but I don't think that at 13 wins either of those teams. I mean, then you're splitting hairs over seeding, right? I don't think it's going to. I think if Vanderbilt holds on, I think they should feel pretty good about their chances of making the NCAAs.
Okay, yeah. So you're not worried. They're both getting in your mind.
I think the 12-win team, or the teams that are behind them maybe a little bit. I mean, LSU, if they hold on, that's number 13 for them today too, right? So we've got, what do we come in? Today, the teams that had 12. Vandy, Florida, LSU, Bama, and then South Carolina was at 13, right? So you can have a 5-way tie at 13. I mean, I think it'd feel pretty good about all of their chances. If Florida holds on and wins, their RPI is certainly good enough. Bama is the one that's going to be really interesting. That one lined into center field, and the leadoff man aboard for Kentucky in the ninth.
No, Bama has 12.
Right. I mean, that's what and they've lost the first two to Auburn.
Yes.
If Bama were to lose, they're the team that's had the best RPI out of this group.
Yeah.
But at 12-18, I would still feel pretty nervous because, again, there's only one 12-win team that's ever made the field, 12-win SEC team since they went to 30 games in conference, and that team was 12-17, not 12-18, which may be splitting hairs, but like I feel like we have seen some teams. There was a year that North Carolina had an RPI in the low 20s and got left out of the tournament.
We could find a precedent, a one-off on a lot. It's just going to be interesting because if Vandy, South Carolina, LSU, and Bama all end up with 13, you think they just all go?
I think probably.
But now, Florida, a long way to go with that Florida game. But Florida,
it's 10-3 now. Florida.
Okay, Florida's going to end up fourth. So now they're going to end up with 13.
Yeah, you're going to have 5 teams with 13 wins potentially. If Alabama wins tonight. There's a liner into center field. Devin Burks with a base hit. Second time he's been on today, and the first two have reached in the ninth for Kentucky.
This bubble's making my brain bubbly. There are.
It's part of your bubbly personality.
It's just crazy how the league has ended up with this many teams with the same number of conference wins. Crazy.
It's such a huge split too, because the other 6 teams have really good records. It's not like anybody's 16-14 in that.
No. Yeah, it's.
There's Nick Lopez. He doubled his last time. He takes a breaking ball strike. 0-1. Kentucky trails by 8 in the bottom of the ninth. They have nobody out and 2 men on. Liner to second, caught by Austin. He'll dive for the bag. Wow. He got him. What a play by R.J. Austin. 2 outs. Whoa, what a play.
Well, that's as heads up as it gets, too. Like, don't even mess with the flip. Just use your quickness and athleticism as Petrie gets caught not checking his infielders. That's just a base running mistake. And then R.J. Austin with the athleticism of being able to finish that play off.
His court awareness is terrific. R.J. Austin's just a really good player. Mitchell Daly squares to bunt.
Okay, so one more, since we're down to our last out, I got one more bubble comment for you. Florida, if they hold on to win this thing, you're talking about a Georgia team that's top 5 RPI. So that's another road top 5 RPI for Florida. They're going to go to the top of the heap in RPI of that group. Because right now they're at 25.
I don't think they'll move ahead of Alabama.
Well,
Alabama's 14. And
Alabama's
Auburn,
17.
Yeah, no, but Auburn has a strong RPI too. Yeah, so even getting swept, it's not going to. I don't think it's going to push them that far down.
Well, okay, even if it moves them to second, like Florida, we go from Florida like being on the bottom of it to like.
But
right
that's
back,
what we've been saying about Florida the whole time is if they
Yes.
finish over 500, they're getting in. Mm-hmm. It's going to be like the year that Georgia did that, right? The Georgia was 29-27 and got in, or 28-27. Called strike 3. This game is over, and Vanderbilt takes the finale here in Lexington. They beat already clinched his share of it. First pitch to Ryan Nicholson misses low, 1-0. I was looking back in some of my Kentucky history here. That 2006 team, Berkey, that won the SEC, the first ever baseball SEC regular season championship for Kentucky, was a team that had won 7 games in the SEC the year before. Now, they had some talent that had come in. John Cohen was the head coach there, now the athletic director at Auburn. He led Mississippi State to a College World Series final. But that team had won 7 games the year before winning 20 in the SEC the next year. That's an incredible comeback.
What a turnaround.
That was also Nick Mingione's first year at Kentucky. You can get a look at the banner there for the 2006 championship. Mingione had been an assistant at his alma mater, Emory-Riddle, before an NAIA school. And he joined John Cohen's staff, and it had a huge impact on him. He said when he went with Cohen to Starkville to join him at Mississippi State, as Nicholson clubs that one up the alley in right center field, it's going to be extra bases. Bounces out of play for an automatic double. But when he got there, he met his wife in Starkville, and they were out on one of their first dates, and they were talking about their